Well, there we go, fellas. Sorry, you missed the crack and everything. I apologize. Yeah, there's no sound. Look, it's been a busy week. What I was saying is, first off, I said, Steffi, thank you for rejoining the Diet Soda Soldiers. I gave her a little smoke of the pipe with the little fecal paste in it for my dog, as well as love and appreciation for your generosity. Thank you, Steffi. I appreciate that, buddy. No, listen, fuck you, Constant. It's not that I'm an old man. It has been a very, very busy week. I've been doing a lot of editing, a lot of research, and Gamescom is done. It's, Germany's half day ahead, so it closed already over there. But there's the last day, for example, if you want to play a bunch of the Steam demos, of which there's like over 100. There's some really good ones in there. I've been playing a lot of them, and I'm going to be doing a video on that pretty soon, showing the videos that I've been playing, kind of giving you my thoughts, my highlights. One of the ones I've loved, I've already made one video on it, was Lego Brick Tales, believe it or not. It is just a weird and cool. It is. I'll show you on the screen real quick. We're not going to spend much time talking about it today, but it is really a very interesting game because it's the first Lego game I've ever played that that feels like you're playing with Legos as a kid, even more so than the adventure one that came out last year with all the beautiful ray tracing. This is probably the closest I can put it. Is it's kind of a cross between Bridge Constructor and like Kerbal Space Program. And what's really cool about it is you've got this kind of map and you can explore and collect things. It's got like this Toad treasure tracker map where you can rotate the dial. It's beautiful looking. And then there are parts where you have to build stuff to continue the progress of the character. But you can build it however you want. All they give you is just this box, and they say, here's the pieces, here's what we need you to make it do, and you gotta make sure you anchor it to this red piece of Lego. And after that, it's kind of good fucking luck, right? And it's really cool because then once you've built your thing, whether in this case it's a helicopter or a bridge or a mountain or a weapon or whatever, that actually gets integrated goes back into the map. So I've seen bridges I've built and pieces of items I've built actually change the map based on my shitty, incredibly ugly but functional. That's what that's what the ladies say. They say, leave a Yelp review for having sex with Jaffe, and they say it was incredibly ugly, but it was very functional. That's Lego. That's the best I can say. No, Lego Brick Tales is fucking great. I've been playing that one. So anyway, the point is, you got about 12 hours left until all this kind of wraps up. So I highly recommend getting in there and checking out what's happening at Gamescom. Let me go to the chat real quick, and then we will jump into the news. I do want to give you a warning, a heads up. The title of this stream, it's not inflammatory. It's not clickbait. I really am serious about it. It's not, I've already seen in the chat, people going on about, oh, Xbox this and Sony this and these. It's not a console war conversation. You can have one if you want. What the fuck do I care what you talk about? But what I'm telling you is I'm very serious about this. And a couple of things occurred this week that I really think doesn't bode well for PlayStation as they are right now. Does that mean PlayStation is done? Of course not. But there are a couple of things happened this week that you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, we will get to it later in the show. But this is not a console war thing. I'm not here to debate. Look, you want to know what I've been playing? I've been playing the shit. Where did it go? I have been playing the shit. I guess I lost it. Out of Saints Row, and I've been playing it specifically on my PS5 because if I have to choose on a third-party title, unless friends of mine who want to play online have it, or it's on what's called Xbox, or it's on Game Pass, I'll go PlayStation every time because the controller is better. But this is not what that's about. But yes, I've been playing a lot of Saints Row. I know people hate it. I don't care if you hate it. I don't care if you like it. I really like it. It's a lot of fun. I'm having a great time with it. I was up way too late playing that last night. It's janky. It's buggy. I did a kind of a review on it. You can see that if you're really curious about a little bit of my deeper thoughts. But overall, it's a lot of fun. It scratches an itch that hasn't been scratched in a while. And I'm having fun with it. So, if you're a hardcore Saints Row guy, I get why you would be going, but that's not Saints Row. Yeah. I get that. I get it. It definitely lacks the crazy of like, what was the Saints Row 3 where you're the president and then you wake up and you're eating pancakes and then you go to there's some crazy shit in Saints Row, and that's not this. And whether was a good decision for the fan base or bad, I don't know. I don't care. What I can tell you is the game that they presented is buggy, and it ain't very interesting in terms of fresh mechanics, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of stupid, dumb fun. I'm having a great time. I just found the Indiana Jones costume for my character, and I'm having fun with that. All right, let me go to the chat, and then we will dive into a lot of interesting discussions that are happening here on this beautiful Sunday. Thank you for coming to the Jaffe Church, where we will all pray to nothing, because nothing's out there, people. It's just us, and things we will create. I'm glad somebody finally, this is Paranoid Android. I'm glad somebody finally said PS controller is better than Xbox. I feel it truly is much more comfortable, especially if you've got big hands. I will tell you on that controller, I did like the Xbox controller more first. I'm trying to find it. Because I don't have big hands, right? And so it did fit more comfortably in my hands, but over time, I've really liked sort of the girth of this in my hands. I've liked the weight of this in my hands. It's definitely nice and heavy. And I love, like if you play Cyberpunk, there's a couple of games that do not just the rumble, but the force trigger. I'm trying to think of the one I've been playing recently. It might've been Sniper 5, where when you push down on those triggers, when you're firing certain guns, you really feel that. And the best people who've done it so far, I would say Cyberpunk did a great job with their with the rumble. And because most people just kind of like, whatever, it's rumbling. Okay. But I was starting to be able to pick up the difference between vehicles I was driving based on the rumbling and based on the sponginess. That's how much fidelity there's in compared to old, haptic stuff in this controller. So I do like the controller. Brian King wants you to know that Xbox gamers don't know about the girth unless it's Phil coming up behind him. I'll tell you something, Brian King. You will be first in line knocking at his door going, "Please, Phil, may I put your pee-pee in?" I don't really know anything about that, Brian King. Hello, Dwayne Floyd Jr. Good to see you, buddy. Okay. Lucas says, Lucas talking. Yeah, Lucas hardcore ride and die PlayStation. That's fine. That's great. Not a problem there. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about Gamescom. It's wrapping up. I want to give you the Gamescom awards. This is something interesting because I know when we were watching it live with Keeley, there were awards like most anticipated this and best this. And it was weird because it was like, you're telling me that Lies of P is more anticipated than God of War. It turns out these awards are based on what was actually on the show floor and was playable. And it was made by it's like 20 people. I haven't heard of any of them except Dean Takahashi. So take these as you will. But these were folks that have played all the games, and there you go. We've got the winner of the best trailer goes to Hogwarts Legacy, which we'll talk about in just a second. Winner of the best booth, which I haven't watched a booth tour yet, is Bandai Namco. They of the Devil in Me coming out pretty soon, One Piece Odyssey coming out pretty soon, and of course they're flush with cash because of the brilliant and probably Game Award winning of the year, Elden Ring. Okay, most wanted Sony PlayStation game is Lies of P. I guess they can get that on Xbox Game Pass because it's a day one drop. Most wanted PC game, Metal Hellsinger, from my buddy David Goldfarb, who used to work on the Battlefield franchise. Great fucking demo. That's available now if you want to play the demo over on Steam. It's wonderful. Most wanted Nintendo Switch game is called Tin Hearts. I don't really know what that is. It looks like it's like a platformer where you play a tin toy, blah. Most wanted Xbox game, The Last Case of Benedict Fox, which is really weird, but there you go. There you go. The choices they had for the most wanted Xbox game was Benedict Fox, which I haven't spent too much time researching. I don't know if you guys have, but it looks fun. It looks cool. It'll be part of my upcoming video on Gamescom. Metal Hellsinger was in the running, which I don't know how that plays on a controller, but it plays great on a keyboard. And then out of all of the Dark Pictures anthology that are coming or that have come, The Devil in Me is the one I'm most excited about because it's based on that guy in Chicago who ran that murder hotel, which I think is in real life. That was a real story. It's one of the weirdest, coolest serial killers out there. Most original game goes to Ink Golanati, which is kind of like a tactics-based game played in a book. Best strategy game from Gamescom, they gave to a game called Ixion, which is some kind of satellite building. I don't fucking know. Best sports game. Oh my God. Listen, everybody tells me this is what's going to get me to convert. Everybody tells me, they're like, Jaffe, Don't watch the WWE. Go watch AEW. It's better. And I know the characters and all that at WWE. So if I'm going to watch the wrestling, I tend to watch that. Although I'm curious if it's going to get a lot better now that McMahon's out and Triple H is running creative, but we'll find out. But anyway, AEW has gotten a lot of people talking about it. Fight Forever saying it is a return to form of great fun console wrestling games. That is the best sports game coming out of Gamescom. Best role-playing game, Lies of P. Best ongoing game, Sea of Thieves. Best multiplayer game, Warhammer 40,000 Dark Tide. We played Vermintide with members of the stream a couple of months back. It was fun. They say this one's a little bit better. Best indie game, Incolinati. Best family game, Paper Trail. That demo is available right now if you want to play it. Best action game, Metal Hellsinger. And finally, best action adventure game goes to Lies of P. So it was a good show. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it, but there was a lot of cool news coming out, a lot of cool games, both indie and big. There was a lot of stuff to take a look at. Let me get a couple of these chats from our members. The first one, of course, is from good Sir Luca, who just gives me a heart and says, Jaffe, even though I know I'm wrong about this console war thing, I still love you. He gives me a heart. I love you right back, Luca. I appreciate that. And then we've got Trey Trimble, our very own Trey Trimble, who made this and all of our other amazing splash screens and intro screens and the Jaffe Mania logo and the Christmas special logo or the Halloween special. He's a true talent, fellas. Head on over to Trey Trimble's House of Hot Dogs and Horny Hobgoblins and tell him Jaffe sent you. You'll get a 5% discount. He says, Jaffe, I was 2 days ago years old when I realized you designed Kinetica for PS2. I thought that game was incredible. I still think about it. Well, let's be clear. I did not design Kinetica. I was working on Twisted Metal Black. I was the creative director at Sony Santa Monica. I was one of the key greenlight voices of Kinetica. I hated what it became because when I greenlit it, it was supposed to be like a midway game, like you're riding not dirt bikes, but like, motorbikes up and Harleys up the sides of skyscrapers in New York and crashing weddings and meetings and leaping from rooftop to rooftop like a big action movie. And then I got busy with Twisted Metal Black, and then it ended up becoming this sci-fi thing that was totally unrelatable that, surprise, sold nothing. But after Twisted Black and before God of War, there was a gap and the team needed a little bit of help. So I came on the design front and worked with the crew for about 3 months, putting in a couple of systems and working with him to tune the tracks, tune the bikes. But I came in and played a little cleanup, but it was not a game. That was not a Jaffe joint, let's put it that way. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have a lot of affection for it. Okay. Joseph Ray says Kinetica never came out over here in the UK. Isn't that fascinating? Because the reason it bombed over here, or one of the reasons it bombed over here, is because thematically it was so much stronger for the European territories than here. And I just wasn't really aware of that it never came out over there. But yeah, that's what I kept saying. I'm like, this game's not going to sell in America. Wipeout is one of the most beloved racing games of all time at that point, and that barely sold in America because it was too future-y, and that doesn't do well over here. What do you mean? Darth Nugget says, Jaffe, what's it been? A year? Good to see you. Fuck you, I see you all the time. What are you talking about? Pixelated says, women vehicles seem right up your alley. Strange you were against the idea. I wasn't against the idea of those, what we called ass bikes. I was against it from a sales standpoint. I was like, this is too weird for the room. This is not going to connect with a lot of customers in America, at least, right? So, all right, let's move on. I want to tell you something that I think is really interesting. Let me know at the end of this little conversation if you think it's interesting. I just found it was fascinating, and I'm going to tell you how this came about. First off, so when I was I had just started working for Sony. This is not going to be a video game story yet, but it will become one. I had just started working for Sony, so I was probably like 22, 23, 24, and I had gone to see a movie at Universal City Walk, big theaters, by myself on like a Sunday, called The Paper. It was a Ron Howard movie. It had Michael Keaton in it, Marissa Tomei, Glenn Close, whatever. Good movie, good solid movie about the newspaper business. And I'm watching the movie, and suddenly the entire theater just starts shaking. And this isn't this RDX shit. This is shaking. Can you imagine if that movie had RDX? It's like Terms of Endearment with rain and smell-o-vision. Anyway, the whole place is shaking. And I'm like, oh shit, it's an earthquake. So I run outside and everything's fine. Okay. But what had occurred to me was it was the first time I had ever been able to sort of step back from myself and see myself watching a movie, because when you're in a moment like that, you're so into the narrative if the movie's good, and it was good. And then it was such an instant break that was unexpected. It wasn't like a friend was talking to me and I knew they were there, so there was a chance of my friend talking, so part of my brain was saving space for that awareness. This was, I was all into the movie, and suddenly the world was shaking, and I had this perspective of what it was like to feel like watching a movie, if that makes any sense. And those are very rare privileged positions that you find yourself in from time to time. It's only happened once, and didn't happen again with video games the other day. And it's about this game, The Shape of Fantasy Vern is what it's called. It's a demo. You can play it right now over on Steam, at least for a little bit longer. I don't know when they're going to pull it. And this was on, I want to say this was on the second showcase, right? Which was like this was on the Future Games show, which was the day after Keighley's big show. And you know, I was watching that show, and for some reason they brought up Lucas, who's the guy who made Papers, Please and Obra Dinn. Lucas Pope, I think that's his name. So for some reason I got it in my brain's pan that this was his next game. And I'm like, oh, well, I loved Obra Dinn. I have to play this. This looks cool. So I'm playing this weekend. And the entire time I'm playing it, I think I'm playing the new game of this guy who I think is just brilliant designer who made these amazing games. And I'm playing it, and it's relatively rote. It's well produced, it's well written, it's well voice acted. But I kept playing it, and I was going, at first I was just kind of like, well, you know, something's got to twist or do something, because there's no way he just made a rote point and click adventure game. And because it was him, like if I would have not known this had this pedigree behind it, I would have probably played it for 10 minutes and turned it off and moved on. I did play it until the end of the demo, and I did like it. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I did like it, but it was so weird to me that we approach games, and maybe you know this, but I had a firsthand front row seat of this, that we approached games we play with all of these filters in front of us based on all kinds of shit we bring to the table that's not even there. Isn't that amazing that I played this game and I gave it more of my time and I gave it more of my faith because I thought it was from someone else? That's so disturbing that I would do that. You'd think even if it was this Lucas Pope guy, I would be able to say, well, I don't give a fuck. And ultimately I would have, if that's where I came down at the end on my verdict of it. But it was just, it's so strange that you're so willing to give people, I mean, I guess it's not strange. They've earned it over time. They have credit in the bank. But it's just weird is that it had a lot more room to breathe and present itself to me than a game that came from somebody I'd never heard from before. It was interesting. It was very, very interesting to me. Okay. But that is Shape of Fantasy. That is Vern. You can play that now over on the Steam. What's it called? You know, Steam. God damn it. The demos. Here we go. Before we get into some more news, although I want to see if you can tell me what this guy's talking. I want to play you a little clip. Just listen. Put your ears on. Put your goddamn ears on. Here we go. Here we go.
Was larger. That room really.
Hang on. Wrong place. I got it queued up poorly. Hang on. I'll just play a little bit of it. Here you go. Come on now.
Kind of big mark, if you will, that identifies the So this guy essentially is like a linebacker.
That's what I want. That's what I want right here. Hang on. I apologize, fellas. Okay, here we go.
Differentiate that.
And I am going to make sure I give it to you because this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Okay.
Helping.
Okay, so this is, here you go now. This is from a brand new show, one of our new sponsors called the Tiger Chainsaw Show. It's very cool. I just want to play you a little bit of this. This is God of War related if you're a God of War fan. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Listen to his answers, and it was
so
role was ask Dave the questions, listen to his answers, and it wasn't specifically how do you want to differentiate. That was my job. What I would ask him is, what do you want the player to feel? How would you describe this character?
This is the art director, or one of the art directors from the original God of War. And he doesn't get a lot of press. He doesn't seek a lot of press. He did not, he didn't work for Sony Santa Monica. He was contract. And we brought him in at the very beginning because we were struggling with all kinds of things. It's a great interview. I'll play you a couple more seconds and I want to tell you about this show and then we'll move on.
Those types of things. And then I would come back to him and say, okay, what I'm seeing is some guy, he's about 6'8". He probably weighs about 250, So it was me basically listening to how David wanted to portray this character. He would use words like, I want him brutal, I want him this, I want him that. And then I would take what he said and I would interpret that, meaning I would go back and say, okay, so this guy essentially is like a linebacker. And the reason this was important is even right down to the animation, right? Some of the initial animation, the character was running like and looked like he was 5'11", and weighed maybe 180, and that no. So again, my job was to basically bring that vision alive. So in my
right, so it goes on. Terry's on here. The lead composer of the first God of War is on an episode coming up. I'm on an episode coming up. What's cool about this show, the Tiger Chainsaw Show, is it's kind of like a late night show. It's got comedy, it's got musical band, and it's got all kinds of video game interviews and things. It's really cool. It's in the link tree below. That is the Tiger Chainsaw Show. Give it a listen because it's good, and because this interview with Terry, who a lot of people who are into God of War don't hear from a lot. It's a really good. It's a really good conversation. Will Corey Barlog be on the show? Says Jimmy McGilchrist. I don't really know. Maybe if they reach out to him. I don't think Tiger Chainsaw Show has fucked up the PR pool like I have. So maybe he would be able to get an interview over there. Check out our good friend Review Tech USA is over here in the chat. He says, I need to grow a beard like yours. You really do, sir. I'm staggered by Rich because he says, I'm done doing the videos. And then he put up 4 motherfucking videos. Can you imagine being on a road trip with Review Tech USA? He's like, we're going to Disneyland. And you end up in ancient Greece. What? By way of the freeway. It's like, where are we going? I thought we were going here. The man cannot make up his mind. And that's what we love about him. That's Review Tech USA. Hello, baby. Yeah, why don't you want to take this instead? Okay. There you go. He can't make up his mind. Thank you, baby. Will you shut that? But he's here. Good to see you, buddy. Nice to see you, Rich. Okay. Let's move into some news, shall we? I want to talk about this because the caller is here. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but I do want to bring this up because the person who wrote me this, and this was written to me today, said, "Hey, I'll call in." I'll just read you the choice. It's from I Am Ravnos. A couple weeks ago, we did a show and we were talking about unions and games and whatnot. Okay. The idiocy that occurred during the rant about Kotaku and unions for QA was ridiculous, he says. I wish I did not watch this, since now my opinion of Jaffe has gone way, way downhill. Oh, my day is ruined. Would love to talk with Sony QA testers who worked on Jaffe's products to see what kind of guy he was. I worked QA and holy fucking shit, game producers were like bipolar children. They loved us right up until we refused to sign off on a product and look the other way as far as bugs go. Well, that wasn't our relationship with QA, and that's not how it worked with us. Oh, and if you didn't agree to just ignore your own boss and just test their game, they did not submit through proper channels, you would go from friendly to ignored. Blah, 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 blah. I wish I caught this live. I would have called in the red phone and gone tooth and nail over his shitheaded take on QA and unionizing. Okay. Well, if you are there and he was in the chat earlier, I'm more than happy to try to have an understanding of what it is about my thoughts on QA and unions that got your pantyhose wrapped up into your butthole, because I don't know what your problem is. But his name is I Am Ravnos, and he was here earlier in the chat. And if you're there, hit me up in the chat right now so I can see. Otherwise, I'll move on. But the minute I know you're back, I'll put you on. We'll have a little conversation about that. Because as much as it's fun to debate and argue, I struggle to see how anyone is, including QA, including people who want to unionize, would think I'm opposed to unions. Okay, he's here. Okay. So I am going to turn on the red phone for him. The red phone will go on a little bit later in the show because we are going to be talking, of course, about Sony, the price increase, a bunch of stuff that's happened to Sony this week that I think really doesn't bode well for them, at least PlayStation specific. But right now, this is just for I Am Ravnos. The red phone is open. The number is at the top of the screen. Please allow him to be the one that calls. Otherwise, I'll just hang up on you. But I will take your calls later in the show. Absolutely. So I Am Ravnos. There you go. I'll read a little bit more while we're waiting. Actually, what is this? Oh, while we're waiting for him to call in, you see Saltiest. I saw this from Saltiest Gamer. Oh, Saltiest Gamer's here as well. Fuck you, Rathy. You know, this was weird. Wait, where did it go? With the red phone at? Wait. Here it is. He put this up. You guys have to have seen this. Bloodborne servers are undergoing maintenance this week. Now, there are you know, the Souls games specifically from I know they had some server issues. Those are getting improved. And so this may just sort of be tied into that. Although I would have to imagine the servers for these are at Sony and not wherever the like Dark Souls 3 is and whatnot. And Zav says Bloodborne servers go under regular maintenance, as do other Souls games. It's not news. The reason it might be news, and again, I don't know, but and I don't think it's news in the sense that these guys are going to be making a sequel. But there is talk about I'm trying to get rid of this. There we go. There is talk about a remaster coming on PC. And in that, there is also talk about a Sony stream coming in a couple of weeks, and no one knows what game's going to be shown there. So maybe this is a time for these guys to be putting out a PC version of it, which I think would be great. Everybody would be. Look, that's one of the only Souls games I've ever fucking finished. So I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to play it again. Yeah, Bloodborne Remastered. That's right. What do you mean? Okay, call back. I'm ready now. Sorry, I didn't have it turned on. Call right now. I thought I did. Okay, so we'll take this call right now from I'm going to leave this up here. Here's what he said when he wrote me. There we go. Well, hello, it's Jaffe. Who is this?
This is I Am Ravnos.
What do I call you? What a strange little name you've picked for yourself. Your name is I Am Ravnos?
Yeah, it's old. That's old. I'm a boomer. Like
yeah, you know, you're 50.
Boomers, we're Gen X.
Yeah, we're Gen X. Thank
51.
God. Fucking
Yeah,
50.
51,
Gen
like
X was
you.
the best. Gen X
Of
was
course it was.
the
I keep
best.
telling my daughter that, but she doesn't agree.
Oh, she's simply wrong. She's simply wrong. Hey, can you talk a little louder or turn yourself up? It's hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just on an iPhone piece of shit. iPhone. So
okay, I can hear you
all
better
the
now.
social
Okay, so
things.
what is your problem besides being from the best generation in the world?
You were reading the article, and
Yes.
then you got to the point where it was like, obviously lawyers speak about what they're looking for and what they want. and you started going off about how entitled and arrogant they sounded.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started going off about how, oh, if they were to unionize or whatever, it's going to make games cost more, and there's going to be more delays. And it's like, okay,
all that's true.
Not the arrogant part.
What was said
about them wanting?
They said they okay. So these QA guys said they wanted a seat at the table.
I think now you may have misconstrued what they meant, or maybe I'm misconstruing, because a seat at the table can mean many things.
Okay, well,
a prime example.
Sure.
Here's an example. Let's say you're producing a game, and okay, we're hitting our deadlines pretty good. Marketing are assholes. They always go, well, it has to ship this day because we have purchase agreements and we have ads we're running, blah, blah, blah. You know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to need crunch.
Yes.
Hopefully it's only going to be a few weeks. So instead of them coming to QA, or us, because I work QA, and saying, hey, guys, we're getting close. If you guys can, try not to take vacation between this period of time because we're probably going to go into crunch, blah, 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 blah. No, what happens is this. You're working. It's a typical situation. All of a sudden, your boss will go, hey, unlimited overtime to whoever wants it. That's what they did. I worked at Blizzard and then Interplay.
Okay.
And this happened at Interplay. And they'd be unlimited overtime if you want it. And a lot of people are like, sweet, they pay us jack shit. Now we can make time and a half because it's California. We get time and a half. I think what they mean by a seat at the table isn't like, we want to make design decisions and, we want to make sure that there's diversity and inclusion. No, I think what they're saying is, let us know what's going on. Let us keep you abreast of where we think your project is so that you can...
Sure. Okay. Okay, but that's not a union issue. That is an issue of just working. It's not. You're not. Look, Sony did all of that. When I started in QA and I worked with QA, and I value QA's ability and job highly, to the point that we delayed Twisted Metal because QA sat down with me and said, Twisted Metal Black is great, but can we talk about what's wrong with this game? And I said, yes. Yeah. And we made a list of like 40 things. And I went to my boss and said, QA is absolutely right. We cannot ship with this stuff. And we got an extra like 3 months for that title. Okay. I am not anti-union. I am not anti-QA.
No, you're not anti-union. You're very pro-union.
That's right.
Clear.
That's right.
But then you said that QA was arrogant because of, I guess your problem was the seat at the table part. And then you said that it would be dumb for them to unionize because they're the bottom of the barrel.
That's right.
They're the lowest, most replaceable. That's what unions are for. Unions aren't to protect
but you're not. You've got to be you've got to be smarter. You've got to be smarter, and you've got to listen. You've got to let your, and I hate to sound arrogant when I say this, but I'm going to. You've got to allow the entire bit of information I'm sharing come through, even though there's this emotional component that's getting in the way. Because if you let the data come in without the emotional filter that you're putting up, you would see that I'm actually on your side. Okay. I am not saying that the QA department should not have some kind of protection. Of course they should. And you're right. The people who are most easily exploited are the ones who deserve the most protection. But that protection is not granted to them via unions out of the goodness of the heart of the people that the unions negotiate with. That protection that protection comes because the union says, well, okay, you know what, fucker, we're going to take our people away and then let's see how you do. And then at some point they reach a settlement and say, okay, we're going to give a little, but not everything, and everybody goes back to work. My point in saying that the QA was most replaceable was not suggesting that QA are losers and fuck them, they don't deserve a union. It was that if you can't apply leverage to the person you're negotiating with, if the publisher can just say, well, okay, well, thanks, but no thanks, we're going to outsource it to Hong Kong, and there's a gajillion idiots out there who rush into QA even though they know all of the bad stories that they read on the internet because they think they're going to be one of the people that make it through and become Charlie at the end of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. those guys are really replaceable. That's what I was saying. If you cannot form a union that has any teeth, if you don't have any leverage, and if the only leverage you have is, none, you might get dinged for a couple of weeks while you're trying to call in some pinch hitters. But short of that, it's not like your CTO quit.
No, look. Wow, you ramble almost as much as me.
I'm not rambling. Everything I said was meant to get.
What I mean by rambling is, like, once you get on a subject, you're like me. Instead of doing a sentence, you do a paragraph. It's fine. It's not a complaint. It's an observation. It's
sure.
Fine. It's like I had things I wanted to say. By the time you ended, I couldn't remember. So
all I'm saying is maybe the reason I do a paragraph is
with what you said. I agree with what you said there, and the way you said it there. I agree. If you go back and look at your video, you came off like pro-union, and you understood. You talked about the Ravensoft people. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until you were talking about the Kotaku article, and then you started. It seemed like as you started to read it, you got angry because you said, "Oh, I'm raging about 3 things," and that was one of the things. The fact that they're that replaceable is why there should be, and I don't think the union should be done like this. I don't think it should be, oh, this company's QA went union. Oh, and this company's QA. No,
it'll never work. It will not. It will not be successful.
I 100% agree. What they've been trying to do for decades, and it's never gotten traction because of union busting tactics, is there needs to be a video game developer union that isn't just QA. It needs to be QA. It needs to be 3D artists. It needs to be designers.
Sure, but it won't be.
Coders.
It won't be. But you're right.
Because what people like Bobby Kotick, your buddy, and I know I'm saying that specifically. I know you hate him and wish he was dead like I do. And yes, I said that.
Okay.
Seriously, I've hated that guy for like 30 years. I even bought stock to try to get rid of him. Didn't work. Because his buddies.
No, don't care. You're writing a novel now. Stay on the topic.
I know. Listen, that's just it.
Let me ask you this question. I got people in the chat. I got people in the chat saying there's this guy Sugar Daddy going, the point of unions is to protect the little guy, Jaffe. I've got Zaf saying the bottom of the totem pole workers are the ones who need the protection the most. Why is it that you think these guys don't understand what I'm saying? Do you think I don't know? Like, have I not articulated clearly that I think, of course, the little guy needs protection?
But then you and then you say it'll never happen because they don't have anything to throw back. Because
right.
The only thing a union can really do is go, we'll go on strike.
Right.
You know what's going to happen if the QA department at Sony, or I won't even say Microsoft because do they have QA? Doesn't seem like it. And that's not a dig at Microsoft.
I don't care. Stay focused. Here, I have ADD meds for you. Here, I have some somewhere. Stay focused.
Okay. They can't just say we'll go strike because, like you said, then they'll just hire a third-party contractor.
Right.
Because there's lots of QA.
That's exactly right. That's all I'm saying. And honestly, if people really, if you guys really cared about QA and you really cared about the little guy.
Oh, I do.
Okay, then you know what? You would be heralding me as the second coming. You would be saying, listen to Jaffe because Jaffe's giving you tough love. Jaffe's basically saying he wants unions for video games. He wants unions for QA. But instead of writing stupid fucking articles and unionizing it Raven, which is going to get you nowhere, figure out how to get some fucking leverage. Figure out how to convince the CTO that can turn around and make a sweetheart deal with the publishers to get whatever they want if they don't join the union. Figure out how to get those key people to join the union. That's where your effort should be going, not into this performative horseshit that Kotaku covers.
Yeah, I'm not a Kotaku fan, not because of politics or anything, just because very rarely do I read an article of theirs, or I don't anymore, that ever was well done. It was always, ooh, isn't this sensational? As in, blah,
I don't want to talk about Kotaku. I want to talk about unions.
Well, and I think maybe part of the disconnect that we had that kind of pissed me off was that if you felt that way, maybe then don't talk about the arrogance of it and then go, this is why it'll never work because they have no leverage.
It was arrogant because there's
instead of saying, hey, what they really need to do, and you kind of said this, but then you started ranting and raving about how they're not using union busting tactics. It's just that they have no leverage. That's why they have no leverage, because the union busting tactics is to go to the art department, go to the 3D render people, go to the people who are in the sound department and say, hey, if you guys unionize, we're going to have to pay QA more, which means we're not going to be able to give you guys as much money. Which means, you know how, like,
that's not union busting. That's them going.
That's not true.
Sure, it's
Look
true.
At the profits. Name a AAA developer that has had decreasing profits year in to year end for 3 years straight.
It's true. It's true in what they're willing to do, though. It doesn't mean that the money isn't there. What they're saying is the business that we run, and we are slaves to the stockholders. We are suggesting that they will get this much bump.
They're not slaves to the stockholders. They're slaves to the board.
Okay, we will get this much bump on our stock.
They own the board.
We will get this much.
Activision's board holder.
Okay. They let's put it this way. They're slaves to somebody who they have to make money for and deliver for, whether it's the stockholders, the board, and or both. The point is that ultimately that is not union busting. That is them saying, well, yeah, we could continue to make Call of Duty Warzone and spend all this money, but, you know, with all...
When you tell middle, like low, mid-tier employees that if a union goes through to help the little tier people, the lowest tier, that you guys are going to end up hurting more, that's union busting, because it's a lie. Because there's no rule, there's no law that says, oh, if we go union, we have to pay QA more, which means our... You're arguing
emotionally, though. You're not arguing...
No,
these people are not emotional people. You're not... You can't tell...
Bobby Kotick can make $25 million, but yet if the QA department gets less crunch.
That's right.
And maybe
maybe Bobby Kotick makes $24 million instead.
Then Bobby Kotick can't say, "Hey, I'm gonna make $5 million less and take 1% less stock options this year, and instead make it to where the company can function."
But yeah, but so what? That's not union busting. That's how Bobby Kotick chooses to run his business. That's not illegal.
Union busting is when you trick people into saying, if A happens, then B happens, when there's no reason for B to happen at all.
In your opinion.
Don't get me wrong. If the union says there will be no crunch,
no, you're arguing emotionally. You're not arguing logically. You're making this assumption that because
have you had a union job?
I have, ish, not fully. When I was doing movies and TV with New Line as an intern, I dealt with ASCAP and IATSE and all that stuff. But my point, though, is that you're arguing emotionally on this issue, because just because Bobby Kotick can take less money, there's no law that says he has to, right?
Yeah, and there's also no law that says if they were to just say, hey, we welcome a union, and if they want to unionize, we'll work with the union to find a way to help the employees get what they want without making us have to do anything that's going to be detrimental to the stockholders or to the quality of the they can do that, but they don't, because it will cause them to have to. It'll create more rules for them, basically.
That's right. It will make production.
That's what it is.
And they don't need to do it. This is not a charity. These are not good people.
No company needs to allow a union. That's the whole point of a union. Because if employers always treated the lower end employees, or
you just don't
like humans,
I cannot. You're not articulating well enough to make me see the light, and clearly you're not seeing the light either. It's not that I'm opposed to the union, but unions do not exist.
Union, but it's never going to happen
in this industry. Yes, because look, I think people who sell popcorn have a better chance of unionizing than QA. I get why there's a plumbers union. I get why there's an automotive union. But right. But because
an assembly line guy at an auto
because
union,
if they don't show up,
he's no more vital than a QA.
Well,
because the simple fact is, look at Saints Row. You like it, right? It's fun.
It's good enough.
Broken and buggy, right?
Yeah. So, but the point though is, if you've got an idea on how to get these much higher paid, much higher back end bonus people, if you've got an idea how to get them on board, a union, then I think you're home free. If suddenly you've got the designers, the directors, the producers, the artists, I mean, that doesn't even happen in Hollywood though. They're still broken up by trade for the most part. But I mean, look, if you've got a suggestion of how to do it, great. I'm not opposed to that. I don't care if games go up in budget. I don't care if that would be wonderful. But you're not offering anything. You're just sitting there saying, the little guy. I'm like, well, yeah, how are you going to fix it? Don't paint me to be the bad guy. I'm just telling you the way it is.
Like I said, my exception was with the fact that you said it was arrogant.
What they wrote and submitted was arrogant.
It depends on what your definition of a seat at the table is.
How about this? How about this is arrogant? Here's what's arrogant about it. Forget a seat at the table. Making the assumption that you are so important to the process that your union made up of 19 QA members is going to amount to a hill of beans is either arrogant or ignorant.
I would go with ignorant, yeah.
Okay. So
I don't think they're gonna. I mean, they'll unionize just like the Raven stuff did, but I don't really see what that's gonna do. Because I'm kind of with you. I don't see the point of just like little QAs here and there unionizing.
Yep.
I think it's more scary. Why is the QA so small? I don't know about how it was at Sony when I was in Airplay. At one time, we had a
QA at Raven
people.
is not. It's not that Raven does all the QA on the Raven games. Raven is, I believe, Raven helped out with Call of Duty, and they have their QA group. But even if you look at a small game like Drawn to Death, Bartlett Jones had 2 or 3 QA people, and we were still interfacing with the QA folks at Sony, which was a massive team at times. So. All right, well, there you go. Okay. That's my take. I'm sorry that we couldn't come to an agreement, but all I will tell you... I don't think
we're really disagreeing much.
We're only... Yeah, and I wish...
Have the answer.
I don't have any answer either. The only real answer, honestly, is for these people who want to go into QA to just stop. What the fuck do you want to go into QA for? Why would you want to work... unless you're like a CTO level or...
Because what you just said, you started in QA, didn't you?
But you don't have to do that anymore. It was a different time. You had no chance of affecting a video game unless you were a programmer.
Hire people...
Don't worry about being hired. Why would you want to be hired to work on someone else's fucking game? Go make your own fucking game now.
That's great if you're a coder.
No, not anymore. Use Game Salad. Use Game Maker. The ability to make video, use Roblox, use Core Engine, the ability to create your own art now and sell it is so, we couldn't have fathomed it when I was in QA, right?
Are you reading the chat?
Not really. I try to stay focused on the person who's calling, but since you're distracted, what are they saying?
I just looked at the chat. I get what you're saying, but dude, I'm 51. I'm not going to make any games. You want to know why I got hired?
But you're also not going to go into QA. You're done.
Because I hated the job I had, and I sold a guy some Magic the Gathering cards.
Cool.
And he just so happened to be a programmer at Blizzard, and he said, "Hey, do you like video games?" I'm like, "I love video games." He's like, "We have one we're testing. If you want,
I understand. It was.
So I went with them.
All I'm saying is why anybody would be in QA these days unless they're already.
I would be willing to bet you $1,000 if you were to go into any QA at any company right now. And go, hey, why are you in QA? What is the point of this? I would say over 50% would go, well, I want to get into the gaming industry.
And do what?
That's probably why they're doing it.
And do what?
I don't know. Some of them are going to say design. Some are going to say I want to be producer. Some are going to say whatever. I mean, let's put it this way. A lot of people that I work
but in that point, like Rathy in the chat is saying, at that point, your goal isn't to be a QA tester. Your goal is to use it as a stepping stone, and become something better. So eat your shit sandwich, shut the fuck up, No, I'm not fucking with you. I'm telling you, that is the way it works. I was in QA. I got out of QA. There were people that were in QA when I started, and they were still in QA when I left. And that's not good or bad.
Well, it was bad for me.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, if you were using QA as a stepping stone, then use it as a fucking stepping stone. But don't. But
I agree.
But if you're saying, hey, I want to build a life in QA, that's probably not very wise.
I think I think it's easier for the QA departments to want to unionize because you get the people that are treated the worst in the companies usually, and they are going to band together. Yeah, let's do this.
Great.
But I don't think their goal is just to have a 20-person union at one company. I think
of course it's not.
Is for this to catch fire, and the next thing you know, you have the video game industry union, which is basically anybody who's not selling.
You know the ironic part about it? The ironic part about it is that a man or a woman working in QA that was smart enough to know how to make unions work has probably been promoted out of QA within like the first 6 months.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. So, all right, buddy.
Yeah.
I appreciate your call. We are fighting the same fight. I just think
I know we are.
I just think you don't have a war plan. We need a war plan, and I'm not the one to come up with it.
A war plan because I'm retired.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
anybody still in the industry? Well, I do know people still in the industry.
I do.
But I haven't spoken in years.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Call back anytime. Good chat, sir.
All right. Bye.
All right, well, there he goes. That was our conversation. Now, I will be bringing back the Red Phone later in just a little bit to talk about the Sony stuff, because I know people have a lot of thoughts on that. But right now, let's dip into some other conversations. Okay. Listen to this. This is starting to come out. The Steam Deck top 10. Listen to this. Top 10. This is from Benji Sales. I want to read you the top 10 as it relates to some bigger stories we'll be talking about in just a little bit. De Silva, workers' rights are a thing. Anyway. Okay. Destiny 2, well, start at the bottom. Nakara Blade Point, number 10. Number 9, Hogwarts Legacy. We'll get to that in a second. Sekiro is number 8. F1 Manager, number 7. Number 6, Total War Warhammer 3. How the fuck you playing that on a small little screen? I don't know. Cult of the Lamb, number 5. 4, Spider-Man Remastered. 3, Total War Warhammer 3. The number 6 one was a different edition. And number 1, the number 1 is the Steam Deck, but number 2 is Destiny 2 Lightfall. Okay. Benji says Destiny 2 Lightfall's pre-orders are best-selling game of the week. Destiny continues to be a juggernaut. He says Hogwarts Legacy will be a giant pre-order, hit the top 10, and it doesn't even release for 6 months. So let's talk a little bit about Hogwarts just for a moment. So it was trending today on Twitter, and I was just kind of like, why is this fucking thing trending? And I guess it's the whole rigmarole of J.K. Rowling and her views on trans folks and whatnot has gotten a number of people saying, hey, don't buy this fucking game. Clearly, if you look at the pre-orders, that's not really helping or harm at all. Nobody cares. I mean, anybody who watches the stream knows I am a very staunch advocate of the trans community. I will be buying this game. I am excited for this game. I checked with my son, who is trans. I said, hey, what do you think about this game? He says, well, do we have any evidence that the money is directly going to folks who hurt trans people? I said, no, from what I understand, I'm sure J.K. Rowling might make some money off of it, but we don't have any evidence she's like directly contributing her cash to some sort of, trans conversion camps like the Chick-fil-A owners do. And he says, well, then what do I care? If it's not directly hurting people, people have a right to have stupid fucking opinions. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. So I'm buying it. But it's doing really well. But listen to this. This is one thing I don't like about it. Here's a reason I may not buy it, but I probably will. Sony is getting an exclusive quest for Hogwarts Legacy. I don't like this trend, okay? Whatever version you get of Hogwarts Legacy, from the most expensive to the straight, simple $60 game, $70 game, whatever. I'm getting it on PlayStation because they're saying, hey, here's an extra quest. I don't like this trend. We saw it a little bit with Psychonauts. We saw it a little bit with Spider-Man on PlayStation. You can only play Spider-Man if you get it on PlayStation. I don't mind when it's cosmetic, I guess, when it's like, oh, play on Xbox and get the Phil Spencer furry costume. Okay, whatever. But when you're actually digging into the art form and saying this game has an additional quest, this game doesn't, but it's the same game and sold at the same cost, by the way. It's not like the Xbox version or the Switch version, I don't think the Switch version, PC version, they're going to take off, $2.99 because there's a quest on the PlayStation version. But even that is irrelevant. And this is not about somebody online was saying, well, Xbox stops PlayStation from getting games. That's just exclusives. But the essence of the developer's vision is not harmed. That developer is still saying, you may not be able to play what God of War Ragnarok on Xbox, but it's not like if you play it on Xbox, you're not going to get the story beat where Atreus, comes out of the closet, which we know is going to happen in the new one, Ragnarok. That's where I take issue. And it's like, that's the way it works, man. I mean, I saw it with albums. You saw it with albums. Hey, buy Taylor Swift's new album at Target and get these 3 extra songs. That's a little bit better because they're self-contained. But when you're digging into the meat of the game and saying it's almost like going to a movie theater and going, hey, you want to watch Far From Home? Cool. But if you see it at AMC, you get Tobey Maguire. Otherwise, it's only Andrew Garfield. But at AMC, it's Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland. I shouldn't give anybody any ideas. I'm sure that's coming pretty soon. I don't like it. I don't think it should become a normal thing. And I mean, it eventually won't because consoles are going away. But that said, though, I think it's shit. Zaf says exclusive content is a long-running trend going way back. It's not going anywhere. Again, I'm not talking about exclusive content if you're talking about cosmetic or if you're talking about something that maybe even worse case will come out in 3 months on the opposing systems. But now you're talking about actual content. You're talking about the game itself, the experience, the interactive art form itself is being affected. That seems beyond the pale to me. Rathy says it offends me because you were paying the same price while getting less content. That does seem bad too. Kay says, I see your point, Jaffe, but isn't that a pox on both the dev and Sony? I mean, they agreed to do it. Well, I mean, yeah, sure. Microsoft would do it. Sony would do it. It's not like this is Xbox versus Sony. They've all done it. They would all do it because it's good business, right? The developer probably doesn't want to do it. It's probably the publisher. I mean, EA is the publisher and the developer, but this probably didn't come from the design director going, you know what I think would be really cool is if we totally took this quest here and stripped it out and you have to play it on, I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. Nobody, and I repeat, nobody is buying the game on Xbox, says Wheezy Wizzy. They want it on Game Pass and it's not available on Game Pass. They're freeloaders. Shut up, you moron. You're an idiot. You're a fucking idiot. Sony also did this harder with the Avengers, right? Like I said, I think that was shitty, but it didn't feel like this. That, it's because it's more, Spider-Man as a character in that game is still, it's still part of the content, but it's a little easier for me to swallow because it's very self-contained. It's a character. Is this timed or permanent, Jaffe, says Ryan P. I don't think we know. It doesn't say. Right now, they're just selling it as, hey, here's a reason to buy it on PlayStation. But one thing I will tell you, and I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan to begin with, but I like Harry Potter. It's fine, but there's no way I would buy a fucking collector's edition. But I've railed on recent collector's editions, including the, I can't wait for Callisto. It's one of my favorite anticipated games of the year. And if I'll be diving into some of the videos from it on my video coming up about Gamescom. But they showed some really cool new stuff with Callisto. I'm super jazzed for it, but that collector's edition looks like shit. But the Hogwarts top of the line collector's edition, I have to say, is pretty fucking cool. Which is it's a book. Can I show it to you? It's like an old tome with arcane. Here it is, right here, with arcane knowledge. And it's basically, if you're not watching, if you're listening, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening to the show, where you have this big open book and you take this wand and the wand hovers above the book and it rotates. I think that's pretty fucking cool. I think that's pretty fucking good. All right. Thank you, Trey Trimble. Good to see you, buddy. As always, I appreciate it, sir. Enjoy your dinner. I'm still not buying it, but that's kind of cool. It's still cheapy. You get it like at the Spirit Halloween store for like $12 or something. Yes, Game Pass is free. Ish. You know what I'm saying. All right. Anyway, but there you go. So that's, but I'm not buying it, but that's the Harry Potter. Do with it what you will. But people online aren't happy. This guy follows me, Gavin Stevens. He says, no. A million times no. You went from a definite buy with me to do I really want to support a company that gives platform A less but charges the same as platform B? Yeah. I mean, I'm still going to buy it. I'm still going to buy it, but I agree. You're a wizard, Jaffe. Thank you, Jerry. You know I've been waiting all day for somebody to say that to me. Jaffe, you think FromSoft is overrated, says Buck. I think so because their games get a lot of passes. I don't know. I loved Elden Ring and I loved Bloodborne and I loved Bluepoint's remake of Demon Souls. I haven't played any other. So I can't tell you. I don't have the experience with them as a whole to say. Ravno says, is it a bonus mission? I mean, that is funny to me, is that it, ultimately 95% of us probably will never even get to the mission because the number of people who are going to finish this and play all the missions, those numbers are always anemic. Even with the biggest hit games, it rarely, if ever, goes over 50%. It's just the concept that your vision is going to be compromised unless you play it on the right system. That feels pretty shitty. Old School Gamer says, Jaffe, in your eyes, are collector's editions not worth it? I mean, your mileage should vary like everything else. To me, they're absolutely not worth it. I'm mostly a minimalist. The background is just a background for the show, but I don't buy a lot of crap anymore. And I don't really, it doesn't bring me joy. So to me, I think they're a waste, but other people won't agree with you. Oh, Stoner Joe, first off, thanks for the super chat. Buddy, he says, hey man, I failed at the internet and life. How did you fail at the internet and life? My mind health is declining, thus I'm going to give up tech soon. So bye, everybody. Well, look, I don't know what giving up tech means for you, but what I will say, though, is what I've been saying to you since you've been part of our show over a year now. You have clearly some serious mental health issues, and that's not a thing in the world to be embarrassed by. Most people struggle with something mental health related at some point in their goddamn life. There's no shame, and shame on people who make it shameful. Technology will allow you don't have to leave your house. I know you try to avoid that. Get online with a therapist and go, look. I mean, think about this, Stoner Joe. All it could be, we're going to get back to video games, I promise, but this is important. It's more important than video games. I've told this story, but I got a person in my life that spent a decade struggling with their mental health. They were bad. We didn't know if they'd be here every Christmas. We're like, is this the year? I mean, seriously. And then they found the right medicine. They found the right therapist. It's different for everybody. Sometimes it's purely physiological. Sometimes it's a mix. Sometimes it's not physiological at all. So if you've done all that, fine. But every time we talk, you say you haven't seen a therapist. Get on the internet, find somebody to talk to. Just even if it's a bad match, they'll say, we're not a good match, but I'm going to recommend somebody. Get out there and fix this, Stoner Joe. It is not fixable. Come on, man. That's what I would say. Yeah, betterhelp.com, I hear, is actually pretty good. I know somebody who uses it. Jojo D says, keep your chin up, Stoner Joe. Sometimes we are all there. The only thing I can promise is tomorrow can be a better day. It's true. All right, get that support, buddy. We're going to move back to video game talk, but the Discord's there for you. We're there for you. And you're not, let's just put it this way. Last thing I'll say is you're not the only one dealing with mental health issues on our Discord. There's a number of people. I talked to somebody right before the show saying today's a really rough day. For some reason, the doctor was like, yeah, we're going to take you off meds and we're going to put you on different ones. And they've been without their meds for a couple days, and it affects them. I don't agree at all with the real YT shadow. It's better talking to a friend. Therapists don't really help. That's just simply not correct at all. Mr. K, I did watch all of the Lies of P gameplay, and I will be talking about it in that video I'm talking about. And I will watch Atomic Heart. I haven't watched it. Okay, let us move on with the show. I just want to say no one seems surprised, nor should they be, that Resident Evil was canceled on Netflix. It opened in the first thing about this. It opened in the top 10, number 2, second place. They said they got 73 million hours viewed, which sounds like a lot of fucking time. They still said, yeah, no, it's not coming back. Some of these things, all it really goes to show you is most video, I mean, again, doesn't mean if it has a great story, it's going to be a great show or a great movie, but most video games that fans adore, unless a great director or writer or visionary comes on and figures out how to actually make a story out of it, most of these fucking games are based on fucking B movies to begin with. Is anybody actually walking around going, geez, why can't they make a great Resident Evil movie, TV show? Why? Because it's about a company called the Umbrella Corp that releases a virus. And I mean, how many times have you seen that? I literally saw from the 80s was a movie was it Dawn or Return of the Living Dead, the kind of comedy zombie movie? It's the exact same fucking story. The government makes a virus and it makes the whole town fucking go crazy. I mean, it's like, yes, but you see, this has Claire. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. All I'm saying is I'm not surprised. I'm not so fucking surprised. What do you think about the Humble Games Game Pass partnership, Pantherus? Well, I didn't know there was a partnership. I know they did announce this week, Humble Games, they are going to be dropping a bunch of games out on Game Pass. But I don't know, is it a partnership? That's going to be happening for the foreseeable future? Right now they're doing Proteus, which, boy, baby, that game on the PC anyway is the tits. It is great. Coral Island, I don't know what that is. Ghost Song, I don't know what that is. Infinite Guitars, whatever. Midnight Fight Express just came out. It's hit or miss. Some people think it's really cool. Some people think it gets boring. Moonscars and Signalis. So I don't know how much it goes beyond this, but we will see. Oh my God, I have to show you guys. This was not, I have to show you this. Who sent me this? I think it was DW Octor. Hang on. You got to see this. I don't know when this is coming out, but I have fallen in love. Okay. I am going to marry this video game and I'm going to make mini a baby with it. Who sent me this? It was a clip of this sort of 1950s shooter, like black and white. Who the fuck sent me that? If anybody is watching and they're the ones who sent me, otherwise I'll make a video about it. I got to show you this. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. Midnight Fight says referable Snail X is really good so far. Cool. I will absolutely give it a play. Okay. I want to show it to you. It says I want to see who sent me this. It wasn't DW. Maybe it was. Let me see. Hang on. It was just this bat. Was it Trey? I know it was one of the artists. Hang on. Some lady sent me naked pictures of herself, and I didn't know how to respond because she's a lot younger than I am, and she's on the Discord. And I was just like, well, I don't know, man. It's my Discord, and that seems weird, right? Right? I don't know. I just said nothing. I was just like, it's not that I didn't think she was an attractive lady. But I was just like, I don't know if that seems appropriate for it's my Discord and I'm a lot older, and am I supposed to say, hey, nice vagina? I don't know I don't know. I don't know. It's not a scam. I assure you, this is somebody who, no, it's not a scam. It doesn't matter. I am not talking to her anymore. It's not like that. You think it's a scam. It's not like when I go to Twitter and it's like, oh, this girl has followed you. The point is, I don't care. I'm not calling her. She can't get me in trouble. I did ask her. I said, "Hey, how old are you?" I'm not, but even then, I just stopped talking to her. Not that I have a problem with her. She's a very beautiful lady. I'm just saying it just didn't seem appropriate. That's all I'm saying. Who sent me? I'll look it up and I'll tell it to you later. It's a sting. For what? I'd love to tell you the game pause. I just can't find it. Okay. Okay. She's totally real. She's not. I know the difference. Fuck you, Captain Ply. Let's move on, shall we, you piece of shit. She's in the UK, Mr. K, and it just seems inappropriate. Let's talk about this. This is interesting to me. Fuck you, guy. Fuck you, Doug, you fucker. I'm going to focus right now. I'm going to focus on the show, you assholes. Thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate that, buddy. It's very kind of you. Okay, can I get back to my focus, please? Amazon announced at Gamescom this week that they're coming out with something they like to call game control, that you do it with the, I'm not going to say her name because she's right behind me, Alexa. Xbox already connects to your Echo Dot if you have an Echo Dot, where you can turn it on and show me the newest Game Pass games and all that. But this is different. This has its hooks in the games themselves. Dead Island 2, which I hear from people who played it on the show floor, is actually pretty fun and pretty solid, will be the first game to use it. You don't have to be an Amazon Prime member. You don't have to have an Echo. You don't have to have anything other than a microphone plugged in to your controller or to something, to your USB on your Xbox or your PC, whatever. It's a free account. You just have to have an Amazon account, which you can just make a bullshit one. And it lets you do things. Here's what it lets you do that they've announced so far. You can say things in Dead Island 2 like, where's the nearest workbench? And it'll pop on the radar to let you know where you can go to upgrade your guns. You can say, swap to my best weapon. You can say, hey, zombie, which will actually be like a whistle that lures the zombies over towards you. Now, I don't know if I like the idea of this, especially when you're talking to NPCs. I mean, one of the things I miss desperately about old school text adventures that I grew up playing is that you had your keyboard and you could communicate with the game, even though it wasn't set up to take 95% of what you typed. When it worked, it felt like magic. It was insanely immersive because it was just like, try this, say that. And then obviously things got, graphical user interfaces, and Sierra Online came along and killed Infocom and blah, blah, blah. And we lost that. Voice recognition, which has really come a long way in a short amount of time, really is neat when it comes to engaging in a game in a way that we haven't been able to since the keyboard, which is like talking to an NPC and actually having a conversation and seeing what happens. Now, obviously, the game has to be set up for it. If you're going to make that kind of game, the whole game is going to be that, because that's a huge task to make it fun and exciting and believable. But anyway, this is coming out. This is Alexa game control. It'll be with Dead Island 2. I will try it. Now, I know that Mass Effect 3 had something like this where you could use voice commands to give orders and shit. But I don't know. I never did it. Did you guys ever do it? And did it feel goofy? Yeah, Lifeline, Eddie Torres. There was a game on PS2 called Lifeline. Did anyone ever do it? Like, it feels like it. Oh, Seaman, Derek. Yeah, of course. Seaman on the Dreamcast was amazing. It feels like it would make it more immersive, but at the same time, I wonder if maybe when you are playing with the controller and that's sort of the connection you have with the game and the sense of immersion, it feels almost like maybe speaking almost, even though it seems like it would be natural, would break you out of it and make you kind of go, oh, it doesn't feel as immersive as it did before. Captain Ply says, I have an app like that for Elite Dangerous. I use it to deploy my landing gear and change my weapon loadout. Did anybody play it with Mass Effect 3, and how did it work? It's not, yeah, it's SOCOM, yeah, but it's, hey, Ricardo, good to see you, buddy. I haven't seen you in a while. He says SOCOM had that. Yeah, SOCOM was just kind of like 1 or 2 word commands, right? But I mean, this sounds like it's a little bit more functional and a little bit more useful. Adam has joined the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you, buddy. You know I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your generosity and your support. I appreciate that. Everybody who's capable gives good Sir Adam a picture of the most beautiful woman in the world who sooner than later will come to her senses and become the new Mrs. Jaffe. I would appreciate it. Hello, Adam. Here's a smoke the pipe. It's filled with sexy time fluid, love, and the issue of Spider-Man written by J. M. DeMatteis where Aunt May dies and lets Peter Parker know she always knew that he was Spider-Man. Okay. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. All right. Let's move on. Okay. This kind of goes, listen. We're going to get to PlayStation in just a second, but listen to this. Listen. This kind of goes to what we were talking about with Harry Potter and that the developer's vision is being compromised. Okay, this is almost worse. In this article, which is in VG247 by a fellow named Dom Pepiat, they're painting it like a good thing. I don't know how I feel about this. There's a game coming out called Evil West. Now, don't let that confuse you with Hard West 2, which just came out, which is like, it's okay. It's not as good as Desperados 3 at all. Commandos is coming out this week on Xbox Game Pass. Commandos HD. Can't wait. Love that genre. But anyway, Evil West is coming out. It's from the same guys who made Shadow Warrior and Hard Reset, Flying Wild Hog. They make some good games. People at Gamescom have said it's really good. But listen to this. This is weird. This is a weird trend. The headline is Evil West will let you remove spiders if you're arachnophobic. What? Listen to this. There's 420 million people in the world that are officially call themselves arachnophobic. You can turn off the spiders completely in the game, it says. And they're not the first ones to do it. Now, let's just take Hard West for a minute, or Evil West. It's a fucking game about supernatural shit in the Wild West that you're supposed to shoot at. Don't you want things that are supposed to be scary? That's like going to see Alien and going, well, I like it, but the monster's scary. Could you maybe make him nicer and then I'll come see you? What? James Cameron would be like, and Ridley Scott would go fuck yourself. You think Giger's going, oh, well, yeah, I'll make you a diet version of the fucking Xenomorph. Fuck you. I don't like this trend. I don't like it. But it is a trend, my friends. Listen to this. Kill It With Fire came out in 2020. It says you could take insects in that game and make them look like toys. 2021 had a game called Web, where you literally play a spider. There was an option to turn the character into a cute little blob instead of a spider. Grounded, the Microsoft game, which is coming out with their final single player pretty soon, has had the option to turn spiders from 8-legged nightmares to floating dual blobs since 2020. Aaron says it's no big deal if it's up to the player. Sure it is. Sure it's a big deal. It's meant to be scary. Froggy T. Wright says it's an option to turn it off or on. It doesn't affect you. It affects the art form. It affects the art form, right? It's kind of like when James Cameron and I think it was Paramount sued that movie theater in Utah that would go into their like Titanic and cut out the naked scenes and the sex scenes. And it's like, well, you don't have to see that version of Titanic. And Cameron's like, I'm the fucking artist, bitch. You don't go into the Mona Lisa and say, I don't like the background, but the Mona Lisa is pretty good. Can we get a version of that? This is not a fucking buffet. We're not short order cooks making this shit. These are the vision. You gonna take the spiders out? It's supposed to be horror. Says it's a pleasure to know I'll enjoy. There's the reporter now. Evil West without my skin crawling every time I find my way into a gloomy, magic-ridden cave. It's a shame I still have to deal with the finger creepers in Elden Ring, though. Finger creepers are incredibly weird as fuck. They creep me out, but that's the fun. They're supposed to creep you out. He says, doesn't affect the game, says Zath. It's an option. When there's no option, I can understand. Yeah, but you're basically, again, the team put it in, so that is their vision. That is their vision. ICE says you need to see this as an accessibility feature. I don't want to. It's horror. It's meant to be scary. Why don't you just not play it? I mean, that is like going, I like Halloween, but I don't like the violence. Is there an option to take the violence out? No, go see fucking another movie. De Silva says, but it's not phobia. It's being scared. It's different. Phobia in real life, it's a video game. Come on. Oh, well, now I'm with you, JW. JW says, if this is what the devs want, what's the big deal? I agree with that. I'm just saying that ultimately, if this is a trend and it's looked at like some of these folks in the chat, like it's some kind of accessibility issue, come on now. Yeah, Ryan Landy says, take all the songs out of the musical. I mean, look, we are getting there. Ultimately, there's all these articles. There was a really good one in Kotaku, but there's all these articles being written or discussion pieces being written about, like, is it way forward and all the AI making art, and like, is it ethical? Is it what's it going to do to artists and all that? I mean, ultimately, we won't be alive to see it, but we are obviously heading towards a world where the art writes itself for us, right? I mean, that's where it's going anyway. Phobias have to do with mental health, says Zaf. I mean, sure, but that's like saying, hey, I'm triggered by claustrophobia. So you know what the people who made that movie where Ryan Reynolds was buried alive should do? Just take that part out. How about you go, oh, this isn't for you. I respect that you are triggered. I absolutely respect that, but I don't know. Here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I absolutely will acquiesce to. I don't have enough knowledge when it comes to phobias versus fears. Okay. If what you're saying in the chat, I'll take it at face value, but I'll do a little bit of research. If what you're saying in the chat is that a phobia is very, very different, even in a phobia that's in a movie that's not in your real life, then let me get back to you on that, because certainly if what you're arguing is really correct, and anybody who has a genuine phobia is going to respond in a very different way that I can't relate to, then yeah, I would want to look into that first. But my guts, here's the thing. Mr. K says, no, Jaffe, it's not debilitating when it's not real. But then we got a guy named Darren McGavin who says, I'm a psychologist. And yes, I would say it's very different, right? So I don't fucking know. I mean, again, Mr. K is not a psychologist, so maybe that wins. I don't know. But I agree, Greek speed, not everything is for everybody. It's not a crazy concept. It's interesting. It's a strange thing, and the chat has allowed me to think on it a little bit more. I will tell you what I saw that was really interesting. when I took my kids to a haunted house about 4 or 5 years ago, and the youngest one, Calvin, he was, I don't know, 17. So, and it was more than that. Must have been, because he was like 10 at the time. And they had this thing that you could pay $5. And if you had $5, you'd get a necklace or a lanyard that had a little light on it. And if you were wearing the light, the monsters knew not to bother you. So it's like, yeah, you're going to walk through the haunted house, but you're not going to have anybody actually come up and come at you. And as a parent, I was like, oh, well, that's cool. He can go in the haunted house with us. That's pretty good. But maybe this is the same fucking thing. I don't fucking remember. All right. I want to talk briefly about, this is going to tie into the main topic of the day, which is this Sony's just faced a monster that I don't know if they can defeat. We're going to get to that. But we have to get there through Mark Zuckerberg. Come on, Jaffe. It's true. Listen to this. Zuckerberg was talking to Joe Rogan this week. You guys may have seen it. I haven't seen it yet. But he was talking about a new Meta headset that's coming out. The rumor is it's going to cost you more than $800. It's not their Quest line. It's a different one. But they're putting a lot of effort into eye tracking and face tracking so that when you see other avatars online, you can tell when they're smiling or sad or where they're looking. And Zuckerberg is basically saying all of these additive elements of, how we engage with each other convinces your brain that you're there in person. Okay. I just think that's interesting, right? Like, I play VR often enough that I have a very definite sense of taking the headset off and having transformed back to this world. I'm not a moron. I know that I am in this world, in reality, whatever that means. But when I'm playing Resident Evil 4 on my Quest 2, I am there. It is a very different feeling than playing Resident Evil on the monitor, okay? So I agree with that. I don't know if that's going to matter, though. I think it still comes down to when you go into a MetaQuest environment right now on Spaces or whatever, and you're walking around, you still feel awkward and weird. We haven't even started the Sony talk, Ravnos. We got to go through this to get to that. Listen, I'm just not gonna drop you in. This is the foreplay. Come on now. I got to get you moist, Ravnos. Come on. But all I'm saying to you is that I don't know if that's going to matter as much, but maybe it will to some people. But I can tell you that I get very immersed in these games in VR, even without that level of visual fidelity and resolution when it comes to sort of how other people are coming across. So I don't know if this is going to be the trick. The trick is when you put strangers together in an environment and you ask them to talk, it's like dropping them off at a party. There are some people that are really fucking good at it, but most people aren't. Most people are very anxious when you put them in front of other people and say something interesting about yourself. I don't agree with that, Truth Teller. Truth Teller says VR headsets will be dead in 5 years. VR and AR are not going anywhere except directly into your brain one day. Ultimately, man exists to leave the world, whether it's getting on a plane or going to space or going to virtual reality. All we ever do is try to create better versions of reality for ourselves. VR gets us there. But I do think certainly it's going to have to come eventually with, this becomes VR, right? And also, frankly, the experiences are shit right now for the most part. The immersion is not enough. You still have to have a good experience. I'm immersed when I go to the park sometimes. When my kids were really young, I took them to the park all the time and they loved it. But after 30 minutes, I was sitting on the bench going, oh my fucking God, I'm so fucking bored, because they're just on the seesaw all day fucking long. Well, that was very immersive, but it wasn't fun. All right. But through that, we get to this. Now, I didn't know this, I did not know this. You guys may have known this. This was news that dropped a little less than a month ago. Okay? Oh, fuck you, Mr. K. Listen to this. In a lawsuit, the FTC's Bureau of Competition Deputy Director John Newman argues that Meta, I'm reading directly from GameDeveloper.com, argues that MetaQuest could have chosen. So here's what happened is they tried to buy for $400 million this company called Within. And Within makes this, I have it, clearly I don't use it that much, called Supernatural, which is a stupid title for a very cool, comprehensive workout program. And they were like, hey, we want to buy them. So they put $400 million on the table and said, we want you. And the FTC steps in and says, well, not so fast, you old motherfucker. They say that Meta is choosing to buy market position instead of earning it on the merits. This is an illegal acquisition, said the FTC, and we will pursue all appropriate relief. So it pretty much killed them, that deal. The injunction argues that Meta itself is capable of meaningful competition due to its extensive resources and already has ownership of Beat Saber, which can be considered a leading VR fitness app in this context. The reason I bring this up is that's weird, because if you can say that about the Supernatural Within deal with Meta, you can certainly say that. And this is the same people. This wasn't like 20 years ago. This is the FTC now, the same people that are looking at the Activision Xbox deal. And I don't have any insight into this, and I certainly don't have any experience. Sorry, I was reading the chat. I don't have any experience into this. So maybe somebody watching the chat's like, oh, well, this is why it's different. But on the surface, for a layperson like me, you could easily turn around and see the FTC saying that Microsoft is choosing to buy market position instead of earning it on their own merits. They have extensive resources, and they already have shooters. They already have Halo. They already have a number of things. Now, Phil Spencer did come out in Gamescom interview with Bloomberg and say, well, we're really primarily buying them for their phone games. We don't have that. Okay. So maybe that's him doing a little bit of dancing there, going, okay, we're trying to cut you guys off at the pass. And if our narrative is that we want Activision more for their phone shit, and we don't plan on making Call of Duty or their console stuff exclusive, we'll make it day one Game Pass. Maybe that's what's going on. But it was interesting to read this. Okay, and this is why it gets into Sony. Okay, this is why it gets into Sony. And please, we're about to get into this Sony stuff in just a second. Please don't. This is not about console wars. I genuinely find this stuff interesting and fascinating. I don't have a dog in the fight. Like I said, here's my DualSense. Stick it up your ass, okay? I played all I did last night. I was up till 3 a.m. playing Saints Row on my fucking PS5. So shut the fuck up. I don't want to deal with that shit. But we'll get to the Sony part in a second. The UK competition watchdog, Xbox and Activision merger could be expanded. So if you remember September 1st, we've already gotten it from Saudi Arabia, but that's a little weird because Saudi Arabia apparently had a little bit of a dog in the fight with investments. But the UK was supposed to be coming out on the 1st of September and saying, here's what we think about the deal. Here's the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, was going to come out and tell you if they wanted to bless the deal or not, if it was fair. But now they're saying they might need a little bit more time. The CMA has held issues meetings with Microsoft to express concerns over the deal, which could result in the regulator expanding its review. Nobody knows what those concerns or issues are, but based on this, and maybe based on what we were just talking about with the FTC as it relates to Meta, which may be looked at in the same way as Xbox Activision, perhaps it's not going to be as smooth sailing as a lot of us have been led to believe. But let's assume that it is. And I'm setting up something for you. I'm setting up why Sony, if you go back to this thumbnail, which is not meant to be clickbait, I genuinely feel something's happening that we should talk about. PlayStation as is can't compete. I think that's true. But I want to tell you one more thing first, and then we'll get to why that is. This was at Gamescom this week. This is Xbox showing off xCloud on the Samsung thing. You've seen this. You know what this is. They've launched their TVs a couple of months back. It's only on Samsung Hub right now. They've got Luna, they got Stadia, they got Game Pass. They have, I think, the NVIDIA one. And, you know, again, I'm not here to promote streaming. I love streaming. I do it a lot. If you're not in a place, oh, I didn't show you the thumbnail. Sorry. If you're not in a place where your streaming works well, of course, this isn't for you yet. This isn't for you yet. But yeah, xCloud, I agree. 9 Lives, if it works for you like it works for me, like it sounds like it works for 9 Lives, it's great. And so Xbox, I'm showing you this because, you know, the play that Xbox is making, nothing, by the way. Dark says, what's stopping Sony from putting PS Plus on TVs? I don't know. I don't think anything other than just them doing it. So Xbox is mightily trying to leave the console space behind and just be this ubiquitous provider of video games through Game Pass. We know that, and when we see these big initiatives, whether it's buying Activision, whether it is doing something like making these deals with Samsung, whether it is, hang on, I'll show you one other thing real quick. They are also doing, they're just these big plays. Like this guy who was doing that, Harrison Hoffman, was running that demo. He says, cloud's a core part of our long-term strategy. We want to reach 3 billion gamers, as well as echoing, our ambitions are to reach 3 billion gamers. We're not going to reach them only by focusing on console and PC. We need to do things like this to broaden the access and appeal. This is day one for us, and people aren't really aware they can do it. So it's definitely consumer awareness that we have to work on when it comes to doing this through TV without a console. Clearly, there are some parts of the world and some people who might not have good enough of an internet for this, but it's a long-term play. We will get there. Okay. Here's where, okay. So why can't PlayStation, here's the screen grab. Why can't PlayStation compete? I'm going to tell you that. I want to tell you two things first. And I already see the chat rearing up for a fight. This is not about market leader right now. This is serious. Look, I will have whatever conversation you guys want to have. You know how I am. But what I am telling you about this, I would love for you to push back, not with like, well, they're the number one console right now. Yes, they are the number one console right now. Well, actually, Switch is. But I want your genuine feedback. I don't care about console. Yes, Captain Ply, Sony's doing fine. Yep, they are doing fine. That's not what we're talking about. We're going to get into it. But first, I want to tell you something that's even more important. Look at this. Kiska and Kara Creations. Now, these motherfuckers, I think there's two of them. There's some talented human beings out there. This is a fella who is one of our God of War members. And what he does at his studio is they create, I'm just going to say it, geeky erotic art. Now I can show it to you because he's put the stars over the nips and the vaggies. Okay, come on now, Jeffy, what are you talking about? They even got a spicy erotic art section. Come on, man. Come on. I didn't want to show, I shouldn't show that. All I'm saying though is that it's a good website. They do really cool art. They do prints, they do originals, they sell originals. It's all the characters you love. You can go up here. Look, I was looking up who would the audience like. I looked up, here's all the characters. They got Tifa Lockhart. Let's look up Tifa. Let's see what she looks like. Let's see what they've done with Tifa. Goddamn right, there's boobs. There we go. Come on now. That'll cost you $15. Bet he'll sign it maybe. Look, I don't know if that one's the original. Tifa Lockhart nude pinup illustration art print. Come on now. Will it get bigger? You goddamn right. Come on now. Right? I mean, this is if you want to own some original art, what does it have to do with PlayStation 5? What do you mean, what does it have to do with PlayStation 5? It doesn't. But these are the generous folks that allow us to do the show, sir, and they make really cool geeky shit. I'm sorry if this isn't your cup of tea, but I like it. Look at Daphne. Look at her up there looking at her. Wink, I love you, Daphne. These are not NFTs. No, these are actual things that will come to you in the mail, and you'll be able to put them on your wall or your locker or wherever you like to put your porny porn. Okay. I also want to let you know briefly. Where did that go? Hang on. Michael says, what does Tifa nudes have to do with the PS5? This man is asking the world's easiest questions. It's true. Okay. I also want to let you know we're going to get into this story now. We're going to dive into this story. I want to talk to you about Xbox and what they're doing and Sony and all that stuff. But as we dive in, I also want to bring your attention just for a brief moment to some of these just insanely generous, kind folks. These are our God of War members that really allow the show to be made, that are incredibly generous, incredibly kind. Give them a tip of the hat. Give them an old reach around. I sure would appreciate it. Okay. So the other thing that's coming out this week, there's a bunch of Xbox news. I'll tell you one more, then we'll get to why this is all pushing in on Sony a little bit. And it's not just Xbox, by the way. It is not just Xbox, okay? Xbox Game Pass Friends and Family leak suggests you can share with friends, okay? So Microsoft is testing already its Game Pass Family plan. That's happening in Ireland and Colombia. It'll cost you £21 a month. Or I don't know what the currency is in Ireland. Is it lira? What is it? I don't know. $21 in opposition to the $12 usually you pay, $12.99. But what that lets you do is it lets you share it with up to 4 other people. It doesn't mention a family restriction. Only people have to be in the same country. And then today, somebody on the internet kind of scrubbed this out of some sort of, I don't know where they found this data, but they found a logo for it. Game Pass Friends and Family. So what I'm wondering about is what everybody's wondering about, which is, are you telling me that Microsoft now is going to bump the price up a little less than half and you're going to be able to share it as long as they're in the same country with up to 3 or 4 other people? It's doubloon, says Brian King. Right. So yeah, it's $12.99 a month in Ireland right now. It's going up to $21.99 if you buy the Friends and Family program, which is currently in test. They're testing it right now. Okay. It's potatoes, right? That's their currency. Okay. And then here's the case I'm building, and this is just Microsoft. This isn't the bigger thing yet. This is what's coming to Game Pass in the next handful of months. I'm not going to read them all. Tinykin, which is getting great reviews, by the way, is coming to everything, but it's a day one Game Pass game. It's getting 80, 81, 82, 83 Metacritic right now. Requiem's coming. Scorn, I don't know about that. Darktide got really good write-ups from Gamescom. That's coming. Atomic Heart is... a lot of these might be brilliant. Pentiment may be great. I haven't really spent any time watching the reviews yet, but whatever. High on Life, people who've played it say it's great. Lies of P, people who've played it say it's like a 7 to a 9 level game. I will be doing a video on that soon. The video gameplay of it, where the director was walking through it, it looked really fucking cool. The ability to swap out your arms and stuff is really fucking cool. You've got the sequel to Hollow Knight, Valheim, Redfall looked pretty good if what Harvey Smith says is true. We don't know anything yet about Starfield. Wulong looks good. This is Game Pass for the next 12 months. Benedict Fox, which apparently is coming out of Gamescom with a great deal of heat. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And again, I'm not saying these are more desired than God of War Ragnarok. This is not me selling you on Game Pass. This is me saying, okay, here's Microsoft. Now let me get to my point. And I'm going to open up the phones in just a second because I want to hear tell me how I'm wrong, because I know you're going to think I'm wrong. But here's what Microsoft has done that we've talked about just this week. Okay. Assuming that they can actually buy Activision, and who knows at this point. Let's assume it can happen. They're pushing for television to get away from consoles if they can eventually. They are doing Game Pass Friends and Family. They are announcing just a banger of the next 12 months. This isn't Ravenlock also looks good. The last game they made was really good. This isn't all that's coming to Game Pass. These are sort of the big titles that somebody put together And these aren't exclusive, by the way. Some are exclusive. But my point is, my bigger point is that they are spending a metric shit ton of money to get in and absolutely own this space. Okay. Now, the other thing that happened this week, hang on, let me say goodnight to the wonderful sponsors there. The other thing that happened this week is this. Now, the current word is that Amazon is not going to bid for Electronic Arts, but there was about a day there earlier in the week that said the news was, hey, this is happening. It's going to get announced today. Now, whether or not, it's weird that it was that serious and MSNBC's reporting it, CNBC's reporting it, and suddenly, oh yeah, that's not happening. Whether this is totally real or totally false, this is totally believable. And we know that it will happen. We know that something like this will happen where Amazon has been sniffing around. Now imagine for a moment that Amazon comes in and does get someone like an Electronic Arts. Now forget for a moment Luna. Luna, I think, has great technology. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. They're making the same play that Cloud is. But it would be day one Luna for Madden. You could still buy Madden on Xbox. You still buy Madden on PlayStation. But what you're seeing, though, and this is not wise of me to say, people have talked about this for a while, but when you're now starting to see Amazon potentially muscling into this space, when you're now starting to see the massive resources that Microsoft, and I don't think Phil Spencer can manage product development to save his goddamn life. But if you look at what is coalescing to be a probable very strong year for Game Pass, and with the family and friends pack, and with Cloud, and if they get Activision, you're talking about competing financially at a level that Sony just doesn't do. So I don't even mean PlayStation, Sony. That kind of game that they have been used to dominating has gotten too big. And if you look at what Jim Ryan said, he said, we're pivoting to these service-based games. I don't know what else you would do. But even that, think about that. What was the number one Steam sale game this week? It was Destiny 2, which Sony owns now. It's going to be everywhere, but Sony's making the profit from Destiny from now on. That is an incredibly successful service game. Okay, but that's not even what he's talking about. That's not going to be enough to save him. He's talking about Fortnite money. He's talking about, PUBG money or Call of Duty money. If you don't have one of those zeitgeist infused or infused in the zeitgeist service-based games, he says that's the money that will be transformative to the business. If they don't hit one of those, how can they compete with this? I don't think they can. So I am not here saying Xbox makes better games. On the whole, they don't. I am not here saying Xbox is better than PlayStation. That's super subjective. I have them both. I love them both. I am simply saying that with the news that that Microsoft dropped this week about all the stuff they're doing with Game Pass to just make it ubiquitous and make it appealing and put just more money at it. And then the news that Amazon is probably coming in. Tencent is there. Sony is no longer able. It's gone from like welterweight or middleweight. Now you're talking heavyweight, right? It doesn't mean that Xbox is as good as Tyson, but they are in that division. They are in that ability to compete at that level, and Sony isn't. And that's what I'm saying this week. And then on top of it, you've got this weird thing, which I don't have a personal problem with. I understand it. But the fact that Sony this week raised their price in almost every market by up to 12% for the hardware. Now, that's not never happened before, but it's rare. That Microsoft says, well, we're not going to do it. Microsoft can afford to not do it. They can afford to take the hit. Nintendo, I don't know, but they say they're not going to do it either, okay? But Sony's like, yeah, we got to raise our price. It's just one more piece of evidence that, and again, I understand it. I don't feel that if you were Jim Ryan, you would probably have done the same thing, right? That may be what they have to do, right? People, he's greedy. Well, come on. I mean, sure, maybe, but there's more evidence to suggest that he's just doing business and trying to keep the fucking wheels on the wagon. But that said, though, whatever. They did this. This is not a good look for him. And then I'm going to read you this. And you tell me if you agree. I'm going to turn the phone on right now so you guys can call. I'll turn it on in just 1 second. It's funny. D Nice says, sorry, Jaffe, Microsoft is not going to buy their way to success. They're doing it. They're doing it now. But hang on, I'll get your comments. 1 second. This is a guy who follows me, Nick Marcel, and I think he expressed what a lot of people in Sony land are feeling. I want to read this, and then I'll open up the phones. We'll talk about it as pals do, okay? He says, I'm a huge PlayStation fan. He tweeted this thread out. This brand was pretty much behind my gaming upbringing since 1998. People joke about emotional attachments, but it's a real thing, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I'm emotionally attached to this platform because there's a long history there. He says, which makes this all the harder to admit. PlayStation this gen, games output aside, has been very disappointing, and defending their mistakes is becoming more and more tiring. Games may be the most important factor, but it's the totality of everything around them that makes a good platform worthy of the title, and their future looks grim. The way they are communicating with fans has been terrible. I don't really care about that. That hasn't affected anything, but he doesn't like that. What they are charging us for gaming on their platform, as justifiable as it might be, is terrible because that may be what they have to do to stay in the game at the moment. Every other day, it seems like there's a PR nightmare about business practices, missing features, censorship, etc. This one feels somewhat worse than the PS3 dark era almost, which in comparison was a quick burst that was promptly extinguished. With PS5, it seems like they're slowly cooking us, and every time you think, well, that's the end of the bad news, another bad news drops. I know I'm known as a massive PlayStation fanboy, and I'm still one. I'll still troll and get people upset, but I just wanted to express where I stand, not as a troll, but as a person on the matter, especially after yesterday's events. I think he's talking about when they raised the price. I want better from PlayStation. So, David VGS says Jim Ryan's got to go. Well, I mean, I think their business model has to change. Somebody's got to come in and either acquire them, or PlayStation's got to say, we're going to give you guys a lot more money. Fupy says, let's just pretend good games don't matter. Good games matter. They do. But what have I been fucking saying? And again, I'm not right yet, but I guarantee you I will be right. Good enough is good enough for most people. Value, low barrier of entry, ease of entry trumps good every time. So yeah, if you have a PS5, you're going to get some of the best cinematic action adventure games that have ever been made. A couple times a year. That's going to be enough to not come over here and play here? Especially if they end up with Activision? Come on now. All right, here goes the red phone. If you want to talk, I'm available. I'm here for you. Your Papa Jaffe is here for you. I don't have to be right. I just have to be heard. So call me, share your views, tell me I'm wrong, and explain to me why I'm wrong. You can't just call and say I'm wrong. I need to know why. What makes me wrong? Where's the phone? Is the phone on? May not be on anymore. May have killed it. Hang on. If you're trying to reach the phone, you can do it in just 1 second. It's going to let me take a moment anyway. I got to take a beat. Not going anywhere. Phone lines are charging up. Give it a second. I'm meditating. I'm going to take 10 seconds to collect my thoughts, and then I will be here to answer your calls. Okay. Gatorade, I appreciate that. While we're waiting, I want to get this super chat from Gatorade. Sorry, I haven't gotten to it since then. Well, Fubie wants Stoner Joe to know, Fubie, you've been a member for 15 months. You know, I appreciate that. He says, I love you, Stoner Joe. Gatorade says, Dave, forgive me. You've probably made this clear. Why did you leave Sony Santa Monica? Could you go back if you wanted? Can you go back if you wanted? Thanks. Love you, man. I love you as well, Gatorade. Thanks for your generosity. What I will tell you is there is a video that I will link to you in just one moment that tells you all you need to know about why I walked away from Sony Santa Monica. As if I could go back, my guess would be no, mostly because I think, doing this stream has probably burned bridges over there. I also think that they are, they've got all they need. They don't need me. And I've made it very clear I don't really want to make games, at least those kinds of games anymore. So, but let me give you a link to the video, because not that I don't want to tell you, but just because I made a whole video about that and it's more succinct. One moment, you will have it in your hands, my good sir. Okay. And again, the phone lines are open. What's weird about the phone lines? There we go. All right, I'll get that 1 second. Hey, it's Jaffe. One second.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks, man. I just want to get this guy a link really fast. Here you go. All right, yep. So where is the link? All right, the link for you and anyone who wants it, Gatorade, is now up in the chat. All right, it's Jaffe. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, what's up? It's Lando. I'm not sure what it shows.
Yeah, Lando C. I know who you are.
Yeah.
What's going on? So, can you talk a little louder? I've got you turned up all the way on my end.
Okay, 1 second. Is that any better? Can you hear?
That's a little better.
Hello?
All right, what's up?
Okay, perfect. So yeah, just in regards to the subscription service gaming and kind of where I stand, and I think it's going to be hurting in terms of like games preservation. The types of games that'll be made, right? They might be geared to like a shorter type of, video game in the future, kind of like just a quick bang, from these dev companies, not your full fleshed out experience.
You're saying for subscription gaming, you see that becoming the norm? Yeah,
definitely. Okay. Like you're and I got nothing wrong with like the Call of Duty campaign lengths. I actually love like, the quick 5-7 hour campaign lengths. But, for it to make sense for a developer to put, X amount of hours into a video game, knowing it's going to be on Game Pass and it might not do as well as if, they're going to be selling it outside of that subscription service or Sony subscription service for that matter. I don't think it'll make sense for a video game company to kind of put that amount of work into these games. So I think they'll definitely try to shorten the production cycle of video games, which could work, maybe not, but I think it's just going to be an overwhelming amount of video games, some, which will be kind of indistinguishable in some sense from like each other games. Like you'll just be presented with a whole list of category of games, and it's just like, which one are you going to play at this point in time once the subscription finally takes off. Not only that, but the price. I think the price of these subscription services are going to increase.
Sure, of course they will. But that's everything.
Yeah, but it's will it make sense, right? Like, if you're paying $30 a month, $35 a month, right? For one subscription service, and then you got to pay another for another.
Well, not if you don't. But, okay, but so what I will say on that though is, every game is made and exist within the business within the constraints of the business model that funded it, right? So even if you look at what's happening with Netflix, which dropped the whole series at once, and now they've had to start to dial back because of competition has come along, and the competition has realized if we spread out She-Hulk over every week, or we spread out Only Murders in the Building every week, we'll get 2 to 3 months of subscription services versus 1 month, and then people will cancel. Same thing with like how long a movie is in the theater. That's not just because, movie directors got together and said the best storytelling happens at 120 minutes. It's because of how many times they could show the movie per day that the exhibitors would get paid enough money to make it worth their while. So
sure.
all of these things are going to press in and affect the creative, but that's not a good or a bad thing. That's just sort of the way the creative business has always been.
So, kind of making the comparison from video games to movies, I'm going to use Scorsese as an example of his take on the Marvel films, right? Marvel films, they make, tons of movies.
Yeah.
But he's saying that it's not really cinema. I don't know if you ever heard him say
I've heard him. I mean, I love Martin Scorsese. I don't give a fuck what he thinks about the Marvel movies, but let's go with it as it relates to this conversation. What he's basically saying is that the quality of the content will drop. Okay.
Diminish, right? Do you not think that would be the case, right? For video games too? Like,
what's happened at Marvel has nothing to do with subscription services. Why is it equatable?
It's equatable because with Disney, right? So Disney Plus, they have all these Marvel shows on their subscription service. These Marvel movies are now under subscription service, right? And it's, with the quality of the shows that they have, I think it's safe to say that it's nowhere near the same quality as like a theatrical film would be.
Yeah, I would push back on that sentiment. I think television writing is better than it's ever been. I mean, the fact that, we're watching, me and the family are watching the show on Netflix right now called Inventing Anna. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really great. It's like from Shonda Rhimes. It's like 12 episodes based on a true story. And they have the time to stretch it out and actually cover things that in a movie they're like, okay, we can't deal with that subplot, even though the subplot makes it richer, right? I'm not arguing long form storytelling versus short form or long game versus short game. I'm saying that, ultimately television has gotten better because the need for more content and competition on the streaming services. I think with Martin Scorsese and the idea that games will get worse because we're on sub-services, there are a lot of indie movies being made. He's talking about, I think, just sort of his his heyday of like, I was going to the movies, where every year you would have more movies in the theater and they'd be everything from these big tent poles like Star Wars and Empire and Raiders to little small character films that, became classics like Terms of Endearment again. But, those movies still exist, but they exist as TV shows or indie films that usually drop day one on Amazon. So I don't think that is really happening. I think what he's maybe lamenting is a loss of the way it used to be, which is different. But you're still getting very emotional stories.
For sure. And what do you think about like all these company amalgamations and these buy-ups, that each company's trying to compete with the amount of the industry that they can kind of chomp up? Do you think that's healthy for gaming, or because eventually what they're essentially doing is that they're limiting competition?
No, I struggle to see that. Give me an example. How would it be limiting competition? Like what limits it?
Okay, so what was limited is so obviously you have EA and Activision. So before Battlefield 20, whatever it was, those two were in direct competition with each other, right? If they're going to be under the same umbrella with Microsoft, not have that kind of direct competition, would you not feel that there'll now be some kind of more staleness from each of those companies, right? If they don't really, like, what are they competing against, really?
Okay, so you're saying because which your Battlefield and which is the other game you cited?
And Call of Duty.
Okay, you're saying if somehow Activision bought EA, or because they're different.
Microsoft bought EA, and now they're under the same Microsoft.
Okay, they bought EA and they bought Activision. In your thoughts. Exactly. Well, again, what I think is lost on, there's two things I think that get lost in this discussion about creativity and being snuffed out by competition. I think as a guy who has been a very passionate creator, And I'm not anymore in regards to games, obviously. But if you're not one of those people, I don't think you really understand. Nothing will stop you from making your art. Nothing was going to stop me from making games. If Sony would have fired me, I would have gone somewhere else, right? So this idea that if you've got an idea for a game or a movie or a book or a show, and gosh, if somebody would just come along and give me a chance, you're probably not really one of the people that anyone gives a fuck about creating anyway, right? Because the people who really want to change the world will find a way to do it. And I don't think this makes a goddamn bit of difference, right? Is the first thing I would say. I think that's a mischaracterization of how creative people think and work. If somebody wants to make a fucking magnum opus about Mr. Rogers almost having an affair with a puppet, they'll figure out a way to do it. So that's part of it. But I also think competition wise. So let's say Battlefield and Call of Duty come together. Someone else is going to come out there, like the guys who made PUBG, and go, you know what, we're going to reinvent the wheel.
But that's what I'm saying, though, right? Like now you're going to have the space that's going to be dominated by these multi-billion, which it already kind of is.
It's always been that way. Fortnite was nothing until Fortnite was something. It wasn't like Epic dominated the shooter. It wasn't like the days of Unreal, and they didn't even dominate back then. It was dominated, by Call of Duty and PUBG for a long time, at least before Fortnite showed up. So I think you're always seeing innovation. You're always seeing people who want to, and I don't think the ingredients change or the amount of ingredients. You're always going to have a percentage of people, which is smaller, that want to push the envelope, that change the industry. And then you're going to have the people who follow the trends because they want to make some money. And I don't think we've gained more or less of these because of these services. I think they just get, adjusted a little bit about how they express themselves.
I'm worried about the whole, multi-billion-dollar industry buy-up, because I've seen what, EA has done to some of the studios that went under the umbrella. BioWare, they made some amazing games from KOTOR, Mass Effect, I mean?
But that happens.
Andromeda, and then they made Anthem. Obviously,
I know, but ultimately, the people who still want to make games, they have a key man agreement when they get acquired. They have to stay on for a certain number of years, and then they're going to probably go off like Mike Morhaime did and start a new company after Blizzard. I mean, that's the dance that gets done. Make your money, stay as long as you have to, and do it again. Because you got
the rise of the free to play games, right? Which Sony is looking to pursue, which I think is not a really bright idea. But I think Microsoft will be doing the same. Once they have Activision Blizzard under their wing, right? You're going to be seeing a lot more microtransactions to kind of make up of the lack of the purchase of the $60.
But why would they not do a lot more microtransactions? That is what's making tons of money. The audience has said to them, but the audience says every quarter, EA made more money, Ubisoft made more money, 2K certainly made more money in the last quarter through microtransactions. So the audience isn't pushing back. The audience is like, give me more of that. That tastes good.
I mean, that's the thing. That's when they start to add like these sneaky business practices, and like EA with their FIFA Ultimate coins or their Madden coins, and those games, they suffer. EA hasn't made a good Madden because they've been focusing on like these microtransactions, and it's affecting like the quality of game.
I know, but this is what I'm saying is that and I've been saying this to gamers for a long time, and they just don't like to hear it, and I can appreciate that. But if you're really loving the medium, go where the greatness is. The greatness is not always the greatness being AAA. Those days are coming, not to an end, but they're going to get rarer and rarer because the budgets are going higher and higher. We've talked about this over and over. There's nothing clever about what I'm saying. It's just that the fact of the matter is you've got to, if you love the medium, you're going to look around for an option. There's this guy on the screen, Beta, saying you can't simply make a COD or Battlefield competitor. You need a massive workforce. Again, Beta makes the mistake that a lot of people who came up make in this generation, which is they equate production value with good gameplay. They equate production value with a good product. Yeah, you can't go toe to toe with Call of Duty when it comes to production value if you're a small team. But you know who was a small team that totally changed the game? Was the fucking PUBG guys that built it off of fucking Arma mod. I mean, come on.
We got some great games on PC, but you see PC, it has the diversity of marketplace, right? With Steam and, tons of like different like PC marketplaces that enable that kind of thing, right? Like I doubt for a second that you'll even be able to see some of those games on Game Pass unless they get to how big they are. You know what I mean? Like,
but again, I think the weird thing is, I'm going to let you go after this, get some more calls. But I think the weird thing about this is gamers act like, and maybe they just feel this way. Maybe they've been conditioned to feel this way by the industry. I don't know, but they act like they act like this stuff is decided in a vacuum just by like overlords that want to screw them. These people are so desperate to make their money. They go where the money is. And look, I don't know if you have children. I have teenagers, and I can tell you that their generation, I don't think my kids have ever bought a game. I don't think they have ever bought a piece of music. They subscribe to Spotify. They watch Netflix. It would never occur to them. My youngest is obsessed with Stranger Things. It would never occur to him to think about buying Stranger Things. Like, I need to own that. He's just like, it's on Netflix. Why do I need to own that? Right? It's just the business goes where the business is. Thanks, man. I appreciate the call.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, there you go, fellas. Game Pass will fail before Sony stops making AAA on a console, says Captain Ply. I mean, sure. I mean, here's what I'll tell you. If Game Pass fails, it's because the audience didn't want it. And that's fine. That's a good reason to fail. That's the only valid reason to fail, really. Hey, it's Jeffy. What's up?
Hey, Jeff. How you doing? It's Kenny, bro.
Hey, man. Can you talk a little louder? The volume's low today. I got you turned up as loud as possible.
Okay. How's that? Is that better?
It's okay. Let's go. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well, dude. Just doing some homework, listening to the conversation you're having with everyone.
Okay.
And I think what you said at the end is factual. Is that we're from a generation, well, at least for myself, late '80s, '90s, 2000s, that we played video games in an entirely different fashion than what's occurring today. And what you said at the end was very poignant. That, like you said, with your kids, like they watch Stranger Things, they're using streaming apparatuses. Like my son is the same way. He's 11, and it's all about Fall Guys and whatnot. So they're moving forward. It's going in that direction where if you want to still purchase games, of course, but these services are going to be there, folks. And I think it's just time for folks on both sides, whether it's Xbox or PlayStation, to just accept it. That's the future. Like, just like with, for example, I just spoke to earlier with Mark Zuckerberg and the new VR glasses that's coming out.
Right.
So
the thing about it is, it's funny and again, it's a pet peeve of mine. I don't mean to go on about it, but it's like all these things a lot of these gamers are saying they want, and it sucks that they're going away, exist. But you have to be willing to, and again, they're not wrong. If what they love about games primarily is the production value and the graphics, I can respect that. That's too. There's no help for them though. They're going to be extinct soon. Those kinds of people, because they're not going to be served like they're used to being served. But if you love the medium, there is so much out there, man. There are so many interesting games out there of all different scopes and sizes that they're not going away. They're just, you have to find them in different places.
Right. And another thing too that I'm seeing in the comments, I'm seeing some individuals say is that at the end of the day, the big budget titles, in my opinion at least, will be there. Like Sony will still produce the God Awards, and the next Square Enix will still be here. You'll still have those big players or a Resident Evil franchise, for example. So to the folks out there that are worried about it, don't be. Those titles will still be there.
Well, they'll be there, but there are less. They are less and less. That all you have to do is walk around an E3 from 10 years ago compared to E3 the last time they had a live one and go, wow, there's a lot less games here.
Interesting.
Because they just cost a lot more money to make. So yeah, you're going to have the 100-pound gorillas that hang in there as long as they can. But even the minute Assassin's Creed Infinity comes out, and let's say that catches on, and just dwarfs the income of something like Valhalla, which is the best-selling Assassin's Creed ever, I do imagine you're going to start having voices within Ubisoft going, after they're done being toxic and sexually assaulting people, those voices would then start to say, hey, why are we making Valhalla 2? Let's throw that money into Infinity, which is our service Assassin's Creed, because it'll make a lot more money. I mean, there is going to be a point where these companies start to go, unless we're niching down for the audience that will always love single player narrative, why are we spending all this crazy money? Yeah, we can make our profit back, but nowhere near as much as we could if we had a service-based game.
Wow, Jeffy, I don't know. That sounds kind of bleak, man.
What do you mean?
I guess I'm in the sense that, okay, I mean, just about what you said earlier, you're saying, well, you went, if you went to E3 X amount of years ago and you went now, there's less games, that a lot of these companies are, and I agree with you. I'm not saying I don't agree with you that, yeah, of course there'll be less games, but at least for me, I still want to see a Callisto Protocol. I still want to see I do
as well.
Resident Evil 4, right.
And they will make those as long and they will make those as long as the audience shows up for them, and they can analytically go, having a Starfield, having a just like Amazon subscription service, Amazon Prime Video can put on some chintzy little this is Netflix, but how much did Tiger King cost to make? Barely any at all. But then they're still going to turn around and go, but Amazon needs to spend $1 billion on Lord of the Rings. So as long as the audience makes it clear that we want those games on these subservices, and if you don't have them, we're going to go elsewhere, great. I think as long as people show up for them and they keep subscribing because they know they can get them, they'll keep making them. I'm just saying that right now, it's not, I don't know. I mean, Resident Evil Village sold really well, right? That did great. Valhalla did great. Yeah, Sony's games do great. Yeah. So I don't think there's any sense they're going to stop tomorrow. But I definitely think you're going to have these discussions in these companies when these games start making crazy money, when they get a hit with a service game, of like, let's roll the dice, but maybe we're rolling them in the wrong place. But we'll see. We will see. And ultimately, there's still going to be the indie games. There's still going to be the AA games. That's not going anywhere. And that's why it doesn't bother me, because I game because I love the medium, and I'll play up and down the budgetary spectrum. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. There he goes, fellas. The problem, okay, see, what Forbidden West is probably the best looking game out right now. Way better. Yeah. Forbidden West is gorgeous. I don't know if it's as good looking as Ratchet & Clank, but it's fucking gorgeous. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Jayhawk says people spend way too much time worrying about what's going to happen in the industry. Just relax and let it happen. It will be fine. It's true. Play what you like. And if you get bored of it because it's not making what you want, move on with your fucking life. What do you have to say about what Matt Damon said about the subscription service, says Berto? I only saw, I'll get your super chat. I didn't miss it. I only saw a little bit of it. Let me get this real quick, and then I'll turn off the calls and I'll answer your question, and then I'll get the super chat. Hey, it's Jaffe. Last call of the day. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. I just got a couple things I wanted to run by you real quick. I've been listening to your show tonight, and I've been waiting to find a good time to call in and kind of throw a few things at you. So I'll make them quick and get to my...
Okay, can you be a little louder? A little louder.
All right, yeah. 1 second. Let me see. Is that better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so the first thing I wanted to say is earlier in the stream tonight, talking about canceling the Resident Evil on Netflix and all that.
Yes.
I don't understand why we want Sony to give Netflix the reins to a Horizon show when clearly they haven't really proven themselves with anything, I guess you could say, video game related. So why would Sony trust them? If they have PlayStation Productions, why wouldn't they just do it themselves? Put it on the PlayStation Network or something as a bonus for Plus members or premium subscribers. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but okay. So first off, Netflix has done a really good job on a lot of things, and some things they don't. But I mean, The Witcher. Most people think The Witcher is a great show. I think The Witcher is a great show. I think a lot of people love Arcane. They love Castlevania. in terms of anime. So I don't know. I would agree with you that they're constantly striking out when it comes to video game properties. But the other thing is, you don't know what the model is, right? Is who's funding it? Is it a PlayStation Productions joint and they pay for it? Or I don't think so. I think they go and Netflix says, we want that. We'll pay for 12 episodes. Here's the budget, blah, blah, blah. I won't be specific, but I know there are some shows they're working on where that was the deal with the network that they hooked up with. The money wasn't coming out of Sony. So, and again, I mean, PlayStation Productions has this weird kind of challenge, whereas, they have to make good enough products that they don't become a joke, but they also have to they have to go ahead and accept things because that are a bit more of a gamble. Like, no one really knows what it means for the most part to be a Peacock TV show, but that's Twisted Metal, right? So for whatever reason, Peacock and Sony Productions said, we want to come together and we want to make Twisted Metal. But they haven't really built up enough of any road underneath their tires to say, we make shows like this. So part of it is they're going to have to risk until they get enough power, because I think it's not like if they would have walked away from Peacock, you would have had Netflix and Hulu going, we want to make Twisted Metal. My guess is if you're on Peacock, that's kind of the only place you can be. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I hate to say it like that, but I imagine you're going to get a bigger budget if you go to Amazon than you are if you go to Peacock. And that's probably the only person who wanted to go to the prom with them.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, yeah. I get it. And that kind of leads me into I got a couple more things and I'll let you go. Sorry. Yep. So Days Gone 2 gets knocked down for a sequel, but yet an movie adaptation is apparently in the works. I don't know if you've talked about that at all.
I think they're very, very different.
Weird.
Well, yeah, I think they're very, very different though. I think Days Gone. So even Uncharted, right? Uncharted without Todd Holland and Marky Mark probably would still be in development hell. There's nothing inherently brilliant about the Uncharted idea, given that it's basically based on Raiders, which is based on movie serials, right? It's just this kind of generic tropey thing. And it's a brilliant game series for most people, but that got greenlit when Tom Holland and Marky Mark said, we want to do something together. And somehow Uncharted got mentioned and they said, okay, we'll do that. And it got a green light, right? So I think when you're talking about Days Gone, somewhere along the line, somebody thought, you know what, we could really use a big zombie effects, a big clicker effects movie with sort of a rugged hero. And, Chris Pratt has been wanting to play more of a salt of the earth character for a while because he does really well in those. And, I'm saying a lot of these things get greenlit or decided on for reasons that have nothing to do with how many copies of the game sold. Metal Gear Solid only sold 6 million copies. Every one of them only sells 5 to 6 million copies. But they're still trying to make a movie out of it, right? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons these things get the go-ahead, and it's not always just because it was a hit game. Otherwise, we would have seen 10 Fortnite movies by now.
I suppose, yeah, and all the other IPs, But, I mean, it's just kind of scary to think about just because, you have the BioShock movie adaptation coming and, obviously Ghost of Tsushima, there's a Metal Gear, there's all these stuff that, I mean, as a gamer, primarily on PlayStation, I will admit it, but I'd like to think of myself more as a kind of middle ground. I see both sides of the playing field, if that makes any sense, but I tend to stick to more PlayStation. So, but back to my point of seeing all these adaptations, it just kind of makes me worried that it's just gonna they're gonna be bad. People are going to give up on making them, and then we're never going to get anything in that medium. So then, you get excited for this. I
wonder what it is. Somebody in the chat was saying, I read their comment about gamers have this tendency to worry about what's going to happen. I wonder if that's just humanity or that is maybe exacerbated with people who are really into video games. It's like, ultimately, the way this works is, for a long time, superhero movies were shit and they were a joke. And then for whatever reason, Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau and Robert Downey Jr. got together and said, we don't want to make them a joke. And they weren't a joke anymore. Right. And I think the same with video game movies. Eventually, if there's really a good Like if most game movies fail, there's a reason they fail. Probably because a lot of this story shit that people like to put on games, if they compared it to other mediums, they would recognize that at least 85% of these games that they're lauding as being brilliant stories are not very good stories. They're fine, but they're straight to video style stories. Not all of them, but do you really walk around thinking Metal Gear Solid is some great story? It's a great video game. It's a great franchise. It's a great character, but really? This guy, I mean, it could be a great story, but I don't know. I think part of it is why video games movie has failed is the source material is not very strong when it comes to converting it to a narrative. And unless you have a really strong visionary that brings that to the table as a filmmaker, you're going to end up with just, Assassin's Creed the movie.
Something way better. Something better. Something, more akin to maybe the MCU type movies. Assuming they have the budget.
Yeah, but the MCU movies, though, even though people didn't read a lot of comic books after a certain age, what made MCU work so well in its very DNA are these very relatable characters and relatable situations. That travels with it. That doesn't go away just because the first issue of Amazing Fantasy 15, when Spidey was introduced, is leaps and bounds childish compared to the last Spider-Man movie. The essence of Spider-Man with great power, and he basically didn't do what the responsible thing was, and we can relate to that. That's what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, not the powers. But video game movies are like, oh, people like the powers, and let's try to shoehorn a story in there. Anyway, that's what I think. I appreciate the call, good sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right.
Love from North Dakota.
Thank you, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, bye.
All right, that's all the calls for today. I want to get some of these super chats, which I very much appreciate. Let me get this one first. This one is super chat, but this is Berto asking about Matt Damon. Matt Damon said, you have to refresh my memory, but as I recall, Matt Damon was talking about the kinds of movies that he came up loving to make and watch, they don't really make anymore theatrically because it's all the big tent poles and everything. And I think that's accurate, but it doesn't mean those stories aren't being told. I mean, again, if you, they're just being told in a different way. If you go to Netflix, and I'm not going to try to sell you on shows or not, but if you just kind of look at some of the original shit, I don't know, they have the worst fucking, they have the absolute worst interface for finding shit. But let me see if I can kind of find it. Certainly Inventing Anna is awesome. You wouldn't really fucking see that in a theater today, but the stories being told, Breaking Bad, if they made it into a movie, they would not make that as a movie, but they will make it as a series, right? So, you are getting those stories continuing to be told. You're just getting them told in a different format now. So I guess, he's Matt Damon. I can't disagree with him about his understanding of that business. But in terms of as a consumer, I don't find myself lacking from having really unique, interesting things to watch at all. Breaking Bad may have a movie, but it was a movie after the show, right? They're making a movie, but And here's what I will say also about the subscription service. It's not because I prefer to stay home, although I do, Mr. K. But I'm saying whether or not Matt Damon, at that point, what you're arguing is the cinematic experience versus the watch at home experience, which is fine. Okay, sure. For these kinds of stories, you're seeing a lot less of them in the theater. That's true. But Matt Damon goes to work on the set, gets paid the same, doesn't really fucking matter where it's consumed. That's not what I think he was talking about. He wasn't talking about how you actually watch it. Yeah, the movie, that's right. The movie already came out. That's right. Okay. But I'm saying it came after the show was a big deal. So anyway, I guess that's my point is I hear what he's saying. Maybe I didn't understand it as well as he needed it to be understood. But I look at all my subscription services and I subscribe to pretty much all of them. And I get all kinds of crazy shit that I get to watch that I never would have seen before if it would have only been in the theater, because it never would have been greenlit. Star Wars, Raiders, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future would not get made today. That's not entirely true. The Atom Project, I was a kid in 83 when all those movies were out. 81, 77, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of movies that get made like that, that are straight to hell. Here's one that's what's the fucking Jamie Foxx thing where he's the day shift with the vampires and shit? They get made. They get made. Berto says he was talking about taking a risk. These shows take risks. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot, you think, what was that movie that won the Oscar from the South Korean director? That's fucking risky and weird. Roma's risky and weird. A lot of I just don't think it's an accurate narrative. Maybe because I spend a lot of time watching Netflix and Amazon and Hulu and Shudder and all this stuff. But I don't see the lack of innovation that you guys are saying comes from subscription services. Okay. Miguel, thank you for that super chat. I appreciate it, buddy. He says, check out Steam's most wish list. Half the games on top 20 are Game Pass titles. Sony had one. No first party is fine, but nothing at all, not even indies. Let me see if I can find that. Where would I see that? Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Steam most wish listed. Top wish list. Let's see. Day Before is back up there. Who knows what's happening with that? That's Game Pass. That's Game Pass. That's Game Pass. That's not. That's Game Pass. That's not. That's Game Pass. That's not. That's not. That's Game Pass. That's not. Yeah, there's a lot of Game Pass. I don't really see any Sony ones. Which one are you talking about? You'd think, what would be up there? Because God of War is already out and God of War Ragnarok hasn't been announced. Yes, Avengers is a terrible game. I agree with you, Rollo. Dano Genesis, thank you for being a member for all that time. Oh, Forspoken. Okay, that's up there. Gotcha. Okay. He says, I just want to say publicly apologize for hating on Days Gone. It's an amazing title. Yeah, Days Gone's fantastic. I love Days Gone. Miles Morales is up here too. There's Forspoken. Love Miles Morales. Great fucking game. Great fucking game. All I can tell you is, if you're watching this and you're like, but I don't understand, PlayStation makes more money or they're selling more copies. It's really not what we're talking about. It's not what we're talking about. Obviously that's kind of where they're at. By the way, I want to let you know this. What's coming out this week? You might want to go to the store, the digital store, whatever the fuck you want. Acquire some games. Here's what you can get this week that's new, at least at a meta level. I have. When you buy Miles Morales, do you get the first Spider-Man on PS4? I don't remember RPG. I know I just bought Miles Morales on PS5 standalone. I do think there's a combo or something. Mr. Enigma, I play games with listeners, viewers, but they have to be members of Gabbin' Games, which you can sign up for if you're interested, right down below at the link tree, my good sir. I'm not trying to scare anybody about the future. What the fuck are you talking about? I think the future for video games is incredibly bright. Incredibly bright. Here's what's coming out this week. Back 4 Blood, which I did not care for at all. Children of the Worm DLC is dropping on the 30th. Destroy All Humans 2. I'm very much looking forward to that remaster/remake, whatever it is. I love the remake of the first one. That's coming. All these are August 30th. F1 Manager, whatever. Orcs, don't know what that is. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection. I know Eddie T's got that all riled up with the limited run folks. Looks like a really beautiful collection they're releasing. Tinykin is going to be coming out this August 30th. It'll be on Game Pass. That's sitting at like an 81, 82, 83 Metacritic. So it's actually looks like it's going to be a pretty good platformer. Scathe is a first-person shooter, 31, kind of August 31st. And then something called Framemakers. I don't know what that is. And there's a bunch of smaller games and whatnot. Fellas, that was a marathon of a Gabbin' Games, but I sure had fun. I hope you had fun too. That's Gabbin' Games for Sunday. I will be back, obviously, all throughout the week with videos and streams. Gabbin' Games, blah, 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 all the good stuff. You know what I'm saying. The next videos going up, I think, are going to be my Gamescom demo videos, the demos I like playing, as well as a bunch of comments on things like Callisto Protocol and Lies of P and all that will be one big thing. Dan Root says, hopefully you get a Patreon soon. Do me a favor, educate me on that. Why would I have a Patreon if I currently have a members on YouTube? Why not just sign up for YouTube instead of signing up for the YouTube membership instead of Patreon? I'm not saying you're wrong. Could you educate me on the value of having both? Last of Us remake is this coming week or the next week? No, I think it's the first or second, right? Is that this 28th is today, 29, 30, 31 days in August, I think. And then maybe it's Friday. Maybe it's coming up. I don't know. I'm not going to watch it now, man. I'm exhausted. De Silva says it's coming this week. Okay. Xbox has no AAA exclusives this year, for fuck's sakes. JR, why do you care? They had no real launch lineup. What does it concern you? Nothing concerns me. They're video games. I don't own stock in these companies. What I will tell you is that I've said over and over that Xbox does a terrible job when it comes to managing their first party stuff. And it's ridiculous they launch without software. Although I will say their Game Pass holiday season is looking pretty good. It's not first party. You're right on that. They've got some great games, or potentially great games in the hopper, but it is a little bit ridiculous. But that's not, what is not the point. Not the point. I'm looking for this, guys. Okay. Well, somebody hit me up on the Patreon thing. If I'll make one if you guys want one. I have not seen Wulong. Wait, I have seen the Wulong. I've seen the Wukong gameplay. Wukong, Black Myth. I've seen that. I haven't watched the other one though. Okay. Fellas, thank you so much. Mods, Mr. K, RPG, Rob the Mod, I hope things are going well within that possibility. Stoner Joe, my heart goes out to you, buddy, but please reach out. Please find someone to talk to. There is help out there. You are not living in an impossible life. I've seen it with my own eyes, man. I know it can feel hopeless. I've seen it. I've seen this person I'm thinking of right now. It was like, that was it for them. We all thought there was no solve. And there was a solve. Don't give up. I mean, nothing's wrong with giving up at some point. I don't mean like that, but I mean on certain activities. But in regards to this though, you got to reach out. There's people who can help you. Fellas, that's it. I'm fried. Be well. Be safe. Be kind. I'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.